Chat, it's fucking cold. I'm freezing again. Oh, wait, here, let me just... Okay, that's better. There we go. There we go. Fixed. No, wait, I'm still cold. Fuck. Welcome in, guys. How was your Wednesday? Oh, goodness. Blech. Blankie time? I wish. Actually, I think I do have an old blanket from my freshman year in college that's literally just like a kitten frolicking through grass on it. I don't remember why or how I got that blanket, but I've had it for several years now. Oh, goodness, though. I cast 100 degrees? No, that's worse. If only I had an enormous amount of wives that could pile on top of me like Marin does. Oh, you make an excellent point. Faye, come here. Faye. Sigh. Sigh, use your massive mop of hair to keep me warm. Time to bring... No, Ordain? No. Cease. Bad. Nope. It just took Ordain a while to find it.
Making the mother of all omelets here, Jack. Cast bread over every egg.
How could you? How could you? The wife stack. Amazing. Amazing. Oh my goodness. But welcome in, guys. In terms of what we're going to be doing today, we didn't get to have much of like our usual like Tuesday. Hold on. I need to turn the music down in my ears because my brain's not working properly with how loud it is in my ears. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It took a bit longer to find the redeem. How could you, Ordain? How could you not know immediately where it is? Exactly where it is. Nah, I'm just picking on you. I'm just picking on you. But no, I don't know exactly what all we're going to do today. I do have the Godzilla video that Red was talking about, the Shelter 54. I already have that ready, but it's only like 23 minutes. Took a bit longer to find redeem, but you're just Sag. And I've already done some scrolling, and there's really not any news. Wallace and Gromit coming to like power wash Sim, which will be interesting. Assassin's Creed finally has a release date in March. Other than that, that's it. Gromit, we forgot the cheese! But yeah, apparently Power Watch Them is getting a Wallace and Gromit DLC. Oh, wait, there's snow north of me. Like, not very far north either. Oh, shit. I may see snow today. There may be a little bit of snow. Interesting. Texas snow. Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk? That's the North Pole? No, that far. Not that far north, you fucking goob. Oh my god. Oh my god. It'll be time to wrap up in a blanket, turn on the fireplace, and watch my hands dry out in seconds in front of me. I learned something epic? What do you mean? Is knowledge epic? Is knowledge epic? Oh. Wait. I'm still looking at other things. Knowledge is pretty epic. Remember, kids, you should always be learning. Just feels like one of those shitty VHS like educational videos that a substitute teacher put on. Oh my goodness. Some VR game trailer for a new anime, which is Sakamoto, which is a really decent manga. Huh? Hi, Cherry. Sorry, I was looking. Apparently, people are praising Elvis right now. Okay. Welcome in, Cherry. How was your stream? Well, deactivates my brain. Wait, what? Wait, what? Wait. What? And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Welcome in, Burning Paper Giant. How are you doing? Welcome in Raiders. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Mara. I'm the ringleader of the Dark Carnival. I typically play games that are dark, spooky, terrifying, or whatever little inclinations my mind likes to jump into. But today we are going to be up to generally no good. That is our active Thursday promise. We typically watch spooky stuff here and there. Right now, all I have on the roster is a Godzilla found footage. Hold on. Yeah, Godzilla found footage video called Shelter 54. But it looks very much like analog horror. Is the man in the suit? No, we've seen the man in the suit. Also, hi, Thorn. How are you doing? No, this one came out about 3 weeks ago. It's fairly new. Hi, Lilith. It was great. Played XCOM 2 and the enemy got nearly as many crits as I got hits. Oh, Jesus. You get run over? Is that what happened? You just got absolutely decimated? Well, I was trying to see what else I could find. Yes. Hold on, I need water. Oh, God. Okay. Sorry, literally just before I came and sat down and started talking on stream, I had like the last piece of chocolate that came out of like a Russell Stover's box. And I couldn't tell if it was like a peanut cluster or something, or some kind of like chocolate with nuts in it. But it was really crumbly and it keeps getting stuck in my throat still. A bit of a steamroll. I lay among the dead. You will be remembered. You will be remembered. Critting on 12 What? What? Damn, XCOM really be bullying you. XCOM really do be bullying you, huh? But I'm still over here looking to see if I can... Oh, goodness. We could always watch a Nexpo video. I have one I've been trying to watch in my free time from 4 days ago called Oakburn and the Misery of 1997. Where I think, if I remember correctly, it's about... Hi, Hollowed. Yeah, we be yapping. We do be yapping. We yap constantly. Faye, if you want to come in here, you're more than welcome to join. I'll have to restart this video because I'm only 5 minutes in. So, because I tend to like watch video essays and stuff in my free time, but half the time I'll be like, oh wait, I need to listen to what I'm doing. So then I pause it and then forget. On my way. All right. Channel 3. Yum. Okay.
Channel 3. I love Channel 3.
We love Channel 3 in this house. You never know what you'll find on Channel 3.
It's true.
You'll never know what you find on Channel 3. It could be a weird, mysterious station that, you know, like gives you superpowers, or it could be a mysterious news network that only comes on at midnight. It could also be your GameCube.
It could also be like Terror Vision and have a monster come out of the screen and eat your family.
It could also just be really pretty lights that mesmerizes your kids and causes strange things to happen all over your house.
Oh, true.
All my games are on Channel 3. Yay!
That's where my games are.
That just reminded me, out of curiosity, did anybody as a kid have one of those like plug and play systems that like would claim it had like 100 plus 1,000 games or something? I had one, and it actually did have 1,000 games on it. Did I play all of them? No. Did I play even probably 10% of them? No. I played one game that was a pixel boxing game that me and my brother would pull out and just beat the shit out of each other on.
Sibling bonding.
It was fantastic. But
we used to have one too that was like Pole Position, Galaga, and like a bunch of different Pac-Man games.
Ooh.
And so on the weekends, my sisters and I would just stay up ridiculously late, just trying to beat each other's scores.
Listen, you got to do what you got to do.
Listen, that's how that's how the sibling differences were settled. We never fist fought. We sat ourselves down in front of the TV in the living room and we argued through our gaming.
Oh no, me and my brother like to wrestle, but he was always a sore loser. So you would know the exact moment it would go from like play wrestling to him being super fucking serious because his face would squinch and he'd get really red and then he'd try to choke you out.
Oh no.
And every time I'd instantly see his face and I could tell he was now actually angry. And I'd be like, all right, we're done. He'd be like, no. And I'd be like, yes, we are. And I'd fucking one hand him off of me.
Yeah, no, we are finished now, sir. That's enough.
The thing was, too, is we were only like a year and a half apart. So we were pretty much the same size. He's actually taller than me now.
How rude of him. He got bigger. No.
But even then, he's still very much a bitch baby.
Well, height can't compensate for everything, now can it?
True. It's also apparently, I have found just over the past like couple months, because he's come around a couple times for the holidays. He has apparently fallen into the various addictions that my dad had, and plus some. So if anybody's heard me talk about my dad's kind of a piece of shit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
But my brother now is, and he actively says this, he is both addicted to energy drinks, nicotine, both in the form of cigarettes when he's like out and about, but he doesn't bring those places with him. Or like, he doesn't like bring those into the house with him. He leaves them in the car. And one that I saw that he tried to play off on Thanksgiving was that he has nicotine pouches. I don't mean tobacco pouches. I mean the nicotine pouches.
Yeah, the little weird looking ones. Yeah.
Exactly.
I've seen those. That's.
There was one time I actually did hit him like full on intentionally. And it was when I was like a middle teenager. And I had a Razer Xbox controller.
Ooh.
So this thing was so cool. It had extra programmable buttons underneath it. The things that I liked the most about it, though, was that the like ABXY on it had very little motion to go, and it had this really satisfying click.
Oh.
And the joysticks, they had an extra knob on them that if you turn them, it would adjust the level of sensitivity on the sticks. Like it would give you more or less resistance in pushing them. Well, I told him not to use it for the longest time, and then one day he did. And when he was done, he threw it in a basket that sat under this like really short table that we used with our TV on it. He just threw it in there and left it. And when I came to get it, either I can't remember if it was the same day or the next day, I picked it up and the right joystick was broken to the right. Like it was permanently stuck to the right. And I was like, you fucking broke my controller. You rat fucking bastard. And I ran into the other room and just fucking socked him across the face.
Good.
That was the one and only time that's happened.
As he deserved. That's fucked. That's just disrespectful is what that is.
At least he's sticking to the legal stimulants, as far as we know.
As far as
hi,
we
Kono.
know. Hi, Kono.
Hey, Chad, I told Kono this, but this is very interesting. I'm not going to mention exactly details on it, but a closed beta test sent me an NDA, which is very unusual. I've been in a lot of closed beta tests, but I've never seen an NDA.
That's interesting. That's
Enjoy the show.
Thank you for the follow, Burning Paper Giant. Yeah, I woke up to that this morning, and they were like, can you sign this? I was like, what is this? Read. Oh. Why do I need to sign this? It's even worse, too, because like y'all had an open beta already. What are y'all putting in this one that I'm not supposed to share?
What is the secrets? What are these secrets?
What is the secret sauce?
What is the sauce?
Marin hasn't noticed me yet. I've noticed you, Ganon. You're the motherfucker who took my hair.
I can't believe Ganon took my wife's hair. This is so sad.
It's okay. I also took my own hair a couple days ago.
Yeah, but that's different.
It's easy breezy and I'm fucking freezing.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's the drawback of having the cute short butch haircut is your neck gets cold. You should have thought about that.
No. It's not an open beta. It's a closed beta. This particular one is the closed beta. It's had an open beta in the past already. Baldwin, you do not call me Baldwin. I cast negative 30 degrees on Marin. Listen, the day Texas hits negative 30 degrees is the day the entire state freezes over and Texans cease to exist. I promise you. If they don't die from the cold, they'll die from the car accidents.
Oh dear. I hope not. I may not like Texas very much, but the shit that some of those people get put through is just wrong.
Oh, it's a fucking nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. I'm still struggling to find things.
That's okay. Take your time.
It's though I watch so many videos now sometimes for like horror games that I'm probably never going to play that now I also get random recommendations for games like Ready or Not or anything because people are just now finding out that Ready or Not is a terrifying game.
Is it really?
It's the SWAT game where you play as like a police SWAT team and you have to go raid areas. And most of these videos that people are making though are on like close details of some of these places as well as some of the new maps. And apparently as the game goes on and the new maps have come out, it gets worse and more horrifying with like more and more like underlying plot points.
Oh, they got the hidden lore.
Yeah, it's like there's one map in there that where you literally raid a like famous streamer's apartment, his like streaming apartment. And you find out that he's been like trafficking kids and sharing CP on the internet.
Oh no. Ew.
The worst thing is too is he's like live when you raid.
Oh,
so you like
fun.
go in and you like show up on the camera and everything and you can turn the camera off if you want. But if you look slightly to one of the sides of the desk, because it spawns in different parts of the on the desk, but not in frame, there's proof of the child trafficking right next to the computer. And it's like,
FBI, open up type moment.
oh yeah, exactly. That's like, I think we've run that mission actually multiple times just because once we were like, oh, this is heinous. Let's beat up the shit out of a bunch.
Yeah, did you beat the shit out of him? Did you rock his shit?
I think there was quite a few where we just shot him.
Excellent, as you should.
I think we did it to the point where we were like, we want to get S rank, so we have to do like full non-lethal. And then we were like, we're gonna go full lethal on this one, and we just killed everyone in the apartment. There's the thing too, is the parent. I think it's the floor below. You actually find out he's like working with a gang who has also set up like a crypto mining operation in the entire apartment below him. So that's like one of the ways in to his apartment is you like have to go through that. You have to shut down that operation, and then you can go up because they've like modified the patios to connect to each other.
Interesting.
Mountain is bound, opening fire. What do you mean bound?
Why are you firing on Marin? She hasn't done anything.
Just started blasting. They made a live leak stream. Correct.
Correct.
Sometimes I miss live leak. Sometimes.
You thought you were going to be on World Star. Nah, this is Live Leak.
I still think of the live leak joke video that somebody made, the quote unquote joke video. That was, this is what it's like to chew 5 gum. And then it was a suicide bomber exploding.
Oh no.
And I mean, I don't mean like, the thing was the whatever camera they used was so good. This wasn't like one of those things like, oh, what is that? Boom. Oh, okay. No, this camera was nice and had good frames to the point where like my brain at the time of being a teenager registered limbs flying around.
Oh no.
And I think of that to this day. I
The only
practice
thing
dog
that-
law now. Oh my God, I can't believe Kono's been demoted to dog law
Puppy law.
instead of now people and or corpo law.
Dog
Byron.
law sounds more fun. You get to see all the doggies. That's how dog law works, right? You get to go hang out with doggies all day.
It's like one of those Animal Planet specials where like it's a normal
Yeah.
thing, but it's all replaced with dogs and or puppies.
the puppies in the little
It's the
in
puppy
little
bowl.
ties. Yeah. That would be cute. I want puppy court now.
Hmm.
The
Oh
puppy
God!
bowl
So we
is
need to go
very
find the
cute.
Dead Mall series.
Oh, I'd love to look around some dead malls.
10 gaming trends that need to die in 2025.
See, that could either be bullshit or not bullshit.
It's by game ranks, which makes me think it's probably going to be that ranting eagle guy. But the thumbnail is that one game that was at the end of the was it game? I think it was Game Awards with the bald Asian lady that had all the product placement.
Mm.
I'm I'm half tempted. I kind of want to gripe at it.
We can see it. I don't mind.
I kind of want to gripe at it later
I'm here to yap with my wife. Have a good time.
because it'll be interesting to see like some of the features that he describes.
Mm-hmm.
Japanese street food, shark cheeseburgers.
Dark what now?
Shark cheeseburgers, cheese meatballs, Okinawa seafood, Japan.
How do you fit a whole shark on 2 buns?
It's kind of a small shark, but it's still 3-4 feet, it looks like.
Ah,
It looks.
okay.
It's not quite a reef shark of some kind. It looks very similar to reef sharks.
Mm. Shork.
Shork.
I like shorks.
Everybody likes shorks.
Shorks. Have you eaten shork? I haven't eaten shork yet.
I don't think so. Do you remember the old, like, goofy ass rumor that kids spread in the early 2000s that the McFilet-O-Fish was shark meat?
Yes, I do.
'Cause I think that was something that like every kid that used to go to McDonald's that wouldn't eat a fish sandwich would say because they thought it was cool.
They thought it was cool and they didn't want to eat it or try it.
Hey, yo, wait, are they
Unfortunately-
releasing Prophecy?
Prophecy? The prophecy.
A new game on Steam called Prophecy is apparently a Mothman game. Somebody send it
Oh,
to
like-
Finn!
Wait, prophecy is in Mothman Prophecies? Like the film?
Probably.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yes, someone get this to the nice moth immediately.
Let me see if I can find it. I just hovered the thumbnail and it started right on the page. So it was just Prophecy. Prophecy.
The prophecy is fulfilled.
The demo's out, but there's no date on arrival, and it already looks like an asset flip, but I'll still send it to Finn.
Forgive me, I'm just checking something.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Apologies.
You are good. I need to start saving like all my footage when I play indie games just for the sole fact of being like, when I get around to that video, just being like, this asset shows up here.
Here, right here, you could see the same armchair that
In
was used
every horror game.
horror game.
Oh, hey,
Is
look,
your
we're in the lobby of Demonologists. If only I've seen Oh, wait a second. This is also in Phasmophobia now.
I'm back in the goddamn building again.
That's what it's gonna be. That's what it's
Oh
gonna
my
be every
God.
time. That's what it's gonna be. Like every transition, it's just gonna be like, oh god, I think I'm gonna skip some of the intros for some of the locations where it's like, oh man, I love playing Demonologist. Let's go check out this other ghost hunting game. Oh my god, I'm back in the building.
Get the fucking house. No.
This free. It's not even free assets. They're paid assets. It's just
it's-
that like some of them are so good and so prevalent. Either that or maybe they're just like making circles in like hijacking groups or something.
Remember?
Like maybe somebody's just like bought them once and it's put them up in like a Google Drive somewhere.
Maybe. I want you to do a video of where it's you just trying to escape the house, but you just keep winding back up.
Every time
in
it's
the
basically
house.
it's the PT moment, but every time I go into it, it's a different rendition of the same house from a different game.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Just oh my god, I can't leave. I can't leave. I can't leave.
It's liminal hell, but it's actually HQ house.
Yes.
From I think one shows up in Phasmo, and then it shows up in like I think it's also the house for what is it, House Party?
I think so.
My House.wad, but worse. We've played My House.wad.
I thought people liked my house.wad.
People do. Asset flip circle jerk simulator now with -2 out of 5 tomatoes. Oh my god.
Not the negative tomatoes.
Day 6. The walls are becoming sentient.
Day 7. I've seen the same 6 chairs in 7 different locations. I don't know how that works because the math does not add up.
This is a 2,000 square foot house. Then how have I walked 6,000 miles in a straight line?
And I would walk 500 miles, and I would
walk
walk
500.
500 more just to wind up in
Da-da-da.
the same damn acid house I was in just before. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da.
Oh, I also think of the fucking Peter skit when that happened. Da 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 da. I'm singing. I'm the one who's singing. It just smacks him.
Yeah. Me. There's just one very good chair salesman out there. It's true. Sensually Peppered. I love that name. That is a great name.
My beef with Bindi. Let's dissect Bindi and the ink machine. Bindi is boring.
Bendy, I liked the premise for Bendy and the Ink Machine, and then it got too big. It got too big and
It's
too
both that
boring.
it's too big and that it's basically the same thing through the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
It like
Well, that's
it
what
has
makes it
good
boring,
theming.
you know?
It has interesting like building and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It has no replayability, and it has
No.
like after about halfway through the game, you're just like, okay, I just gotta finish this fucking thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I gotta wait. I gotta wait for the music. Tomothy, how dare you?
Tomothy.
How dare you?
Oh no, they ran off with your baps again.
Yeah, they ode to Joy the whole thing too, like it was a goddamn procession.
God. Ode to Joy so powerful it blows your baps off.
How could you? God, that just
How
makes me think
could
of
you?
Sammy's when because her baps actually look like they like fly up into the air.
Yeah. I love that toggle.
Are we salting Mama's bald head? My head's not bald anymore.
Merwin's not bald.
But you have
There's
to
no-
reply it for the secret scribbles? No, not the secret scribbles.
The secret scribbles.
The scribbles cannot save you. Chad, I want to go to a conveyor belt sushi again.
I've never been to a conveyor belt sushi place.
We will find one once we're up there.
I'm
Speaking
pretty
of which,
sure-
I want to get the ball
Yes?
rolling on that because the longer I wait, the more my anxiety skyrockets.
You're more than welcome to start sending like smaller items to us. Because we have places for at least the small stuff, like little things that you want to send that might not
Yeah.
cost too much to ship. I think it would be fine if you went ahead and started doing that because we're supposed to be hearing like any day now about the house.
I'll drag your ass. I can't afford TwitchCon. I can't afford any conventions right now. This is more important. Moving is more important.
I'm sorry, chat. Marin can't make any convention appearances. I'm putting her in my house.
And I'm probably not going to WeebCon either because I heard that Uwu isn't going, so there's probably not going to be like a big VTuber presence this year.
I heard the same.
So there's like a lot. That was basically the majority of their like big events and all their stuff was run and led by the Uwu merch.
I wonder why Ooh isn't going.
They probably had a bit of like a catastrophe with the management. I did hear a bunch of stuff that year while I was there.
That kind of situation.
I did get to meet the owner of WeebCon though when I was looking for my pass
Oh, how fun.
because they returned. Well, I never found my pass,
Well,
unfortunately.
not
He-
the pass part,
yeah.
the meeting part.
But yeah, it was during when they were like changing things to like VIP sections and they were gonna have like a special like adult meet and greet with like the voice actors. So they were like rearranging a bunch of shit and setting up what was supposed to be a quote unquote fancy dinner time with like a bunch of the voice actors that were there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like there trying to get it set up. And I was like, can I run in and like go see if my pass is still in there? They didn't let me go in, but they sent like 3 interns, 3 of like the volunteers to go check and they didn't find it anywhere. So somebody just copped my 3-day pass.
It was still sweet that they sent 3 people to look.
Yeah, because it was the room that was next to the place where I'm pretty sure I like knocked it off and got lost somewhere was the smaller artist alley.
I see.
So there was tons of like draperies and stuff. I don't know how hard they looked or if they just ran up and down the aisles. Phase monopolizing the baldy. Baldy!
Marin's not bald.
You're not bald.
Marin, it's okay, Marin. I know you're not bald. It's okay. It's okay. They're there, Marin. Maki, no.
Bald! The fuck? Wait, Pom's fucking emotes.
Oh my god.
The fucking face for a second.
That's so cute. Pom has good emotes.
Thing is, I think a lot of Pom has such like a mismatch of emotes. It makes me think that it's her community buying emotes for her,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's just like she's like, all right, I'll put it in. I'll put it in.
I'm adding it in. Fine. You goobers.
Oh my god. I had a thing, but now I can't remember what it was. Bald, why are you not bullying me?
To be
I'm
nice.
not bald. I just got short hair.
Her neck is cold. And this is how, and you're laughing? Her neck has icicles on it and you're laughing.
You're laughing at me and my hair is frozen to the back of my head? Because I
It's
took a
cold.
shower before stream?
And you're laughing. It's 7 degrees here.
Listen, that's fine. That's fine.
That's in Fahrenheit, by the way.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm cold, Baron.
Y'all have like, you haven't turned on the heat yet? Haven't been convinced?
Oh, no, we've turned the heat on. Third roommate keeps turning it all the way down to the minimum, like, output.
Why?
So it doesn't... I don't know.
Is his room like closest to the like central heat?
No, that's the weird part. It's not.
Huh.
I am.
That's the thing too with like my house. I'm at the end of the line for like the central AC. So even when the heat gets turned on, it hits every other room before it gets to me. But we don't have the heat on right now because heating is expensive.
It's okay. I'm just gonna drape myself over you, and that'll keep you warm.
Yippee!
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Brain. Thank you for that joke, Brain. I appreciate. You
I
can
have
cut me
1,000
open like a
degrees on Marin.
tauntaun.
Why?
No, that's worse.
Cage teleportation. Rin just teleports himself and the cage to just like the middle of nowhere and crashes to the ground.
I mean, if you can fit the cage and subsequently Ren inside of the cage, inside of a box, like having a free rig artist.
There's a Ren. There's a Ren at the hole at the bottom of the sea.
There's a Ren. There's a Ren. And there's a frog on a log on a Ren at the hole at the bottom of the sea.
That's the frog and everything on the frog is it's just guarding Rin at the bottom of the sea.
Yep. It's this frog emote. I love it.
I was gonna say, is that somebody? Or I swear I see it so often.
Zamus.
Yeah, it looks like they just use meme one, so that is just like a meme side-eyed frog.
I'm gonna acquire my own side-eye frog, and I'm gonna make it purple.
As you should.
Purple frog. Speaking of spookiness in games and such, you know what game I saw come back into my feed?
Oh?
It's like Don't Breathe or They Don't Breathe or something, and it's that little game where you play as a frog and you gotta swim down and save the other frogs, and a bunch of spooky stuff happens while you try to save the frogs. There's like 11 frogs you gotta save. Let me see if I can find it.
That just made me think of the mini game for Sonic.
It's not the Sonic mini game. It's about frogs.
No, I'm sorry. Listen, Faye. I know it took you so long as playing Big the Cat to fish up all of the frogs and all the fish you needed, but I'm telling you right now, it's not an entire game. Okay.
It is an entire game. I played all the Sonic games. The Sega Dreamcast fell on my head and left a dent as proof.
Wait, how heavy is this Sega Dreamcast?
Oh, They Breathe. That's what it's called. It's called They Breathe.
Oh.
Let me see.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
They
I
Breathe.
do remember this.
Yeah, the frogs.
In the weird giant tardigrade things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's like in like a flooded, like the planet's flooded and shit.
Yes, and you have to save the frogs, your frog friends. There's like 11 of them, and it's kind of spooky. And I wanted to see if anybody remembered it because it just started popping up in my feeds again. And I was like, I remember you, strange little frog game.
Wait, this has just crossed my page. It's the Polar Express Ice Drift unhinged version.
Oh no! How unhinged.
It looks like somebody has like self-edited it. Do we want to watch it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's from somebody named Landon's Animation Wheelhouse.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Like,
No dancing in the moonlight. At least not right now, Mr. Bowie.
In the moonlight, every night.
All right, let me swing on over to... Oh, I haven't sent it to you. I need to show you a thing that got practically finished yesterday.
Yes, you do. I like seeing things.
But give me just a second. I will start this and we can see what nightmare this is. Hi, Coño.
Hi, Goño. Why are we yelling?
It's Yui.
Yui! Melwin, can you share the video?
I am working on that right now.
Thank you.
Welcome, in Raiders. How was your stream? Yui, did you finish the VTM thing you were drawing? Or is it break time? Is it break time? Welcome, in Raiders. I hope you had a good stream. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Marn, the Ringleader of the Dark Carnival. I typically play games that are dark, spooky, terrifying, whatever little inclinations I like to get into. Today is going to be extremely random because one thing we're going to watch is whatever the fuck this is, the Polar Express Ice Drift Unhinged version.
Let's go.
And then, hi, Ariel. And then, what was it? I brain farted. Oh, the Shelter 54, which is like a Godzilla found footage film.
Yes.
And then I have a bunch of other random nonsense, like trying to see what, quote, Gamer News thinks that video game trends we should leave in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta watch that. The Shelter 54. Yeah, it's like a 24-minute video, but let's see what this unhinged thing is.
Yes.
I want it to be very Gmod for some reason.
Oh my god. This is already so intense. They made this part of the movie too super frightening for no reason.
I think my favorite thing that I've seen is, oh, what?
Is that a mine?
Yes. I can't believe a single fucking stop pin is setting off a naval mine reaction.
Right? They said unhinged. All right, time to Tokyo Drift the train.
I was gonna say, just hit it with, oh god, I think it was, the video, I can't remember, there's a popular video, I think it's Thunderstruck.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, those kids are dead.
Damn. Those are dead children. Oh shit.
Are we not gonna talk about the fact that he's basically surfing on top of the fucking engine car?
Yes. Brace yourself. Oh my god.
Rock.
Whoop. That's someone's head. Is it? Or is it a rock? I thought I saw
It's
blood.
snow, it's picking up snow.
Oh, okay.
Wait, y'all are supposed to be in the North Pole. There's no people here.
Whee!
Hello?
Hello? What?
Whose Bel Air is that?
I don't know.
Yeah, those
but
kids
they
dead.
Yeah, there's no more children. Merry Christmas.
Oh my god, all the kids are dead.
Merry Christmas, all the children are dead.
Montezuma, the king of the Aztecs.
Oh my god.
Oh no, the nerds survived. God damn it.
Who is this dude?
I don't know. They're pretty baller.
Take a break, kid! How about a nice good hot cup of
Wait, is that... Oh, I
Wow.
forget. Yes. Oh, the propane out front of his school.
Of course.
The propane cage. Whip it.
Whip it. Whip it real
All right,
good.
more dead kids. Damn, guys. Y'all went from...
Bruh.
Welcome back to KNTV News.
This is amazing.
The fucking microphone.
Right now during
I can't believe they went from having what, like 6 cars now just to 1.
When they said unhinged, they were not joking.
Also, my concern is how they ended up back at the neighborhood where they. Barney 5!
Barney! Hello? What the fuck? Okay, sure.
Almost ready for Andy Griffith meets fucking Polar Express.
Oh,
All right, kids, you're home.
Merry Christmas.
Like it? Watch your step, please.
That was amazing. Wait. I want to see the Barney 5 moment again.
Yeah.
I want to see. I should have known from the car because that's actually.
Yeah. This is the Polar Express
Nip it
ice
in the
drift
bud.
in the bud. This is the Tommy. This is the unhinged version of the ice drifting in Polar Express. Isn't it great?
Oh my fucking god! Give me the link. There you go. There you go, Tommy.
Like it?
Beautiful.
Watch your step, please.
I was not of all crossovers. Nobody expects the Andy Griffith show to make the Barney scene a redeem. Let me see. What I forget what he says again. It's like, go get it. Do we need to talk about Andy just absolutely nailing this driving?
Right.
Nip it in the bud.
Barney.
The bullet like jamming itself so that he could actually pull the brake. Amazing.
Amazing.
Hi, Sin. What caliber is that damn revolver? Who fucking knows? It's Barney's revolver.
It's chambered in whatever Barney needs at the time.
Yeah, that man, I think he shot a bullet straight out of 40K. It came out and then it instantly grew to the size of a monster can.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to see what fucking gaming news is raging about from 2024?
I'm down.
Are we going to find out that either whatever game ranks is either based as possible or it's just a complaining little bitch?
Only one way to find out.
Only one way to find out.
Gaming trends
I'm
pop up
I'm
and
leaning
change
towards
and
it might be
influence
bullshit.
everything, and, well, some of them really suck. Hi, folks, it's Falcon, and today on Gaming
Look at this dude.
Gaming trends
Look
that
at this
need to
dude.
die in 2025. At number
Is
10,
it remasters?
studios closing before even releasing a game. The video game industry was not in a good place in 2024. If you want proof positive, look how many
Okay.
studios ended up
Okay,
closing before
that's not
releasing anything.
All right,
I mean,
proving me
recently
wrong.
we even
I
talked
dig it, I
about,
dig
like,
it.
Studios not even announcing.
Well, I mean,
things
Deceive
that either get
Inc.
bought or formed
Well,
by
it
some
was-
larger entity.
I think I
that
have
exists
Deceive
for a
Inc.
while and then
I think I got it for
like,
free off
literally,
Epic.
Like, we have no idea anything about them even, and if there wasn't.
Wait. You can't be a triple A game studio without having released at least 3 games. Right?
That's an excellent question. I'm not so sure.
I thought triple A was originally awarded to was like the A ranking system was basically like good games. Yeah.
What?
Like you had to release multiple.
I say triple A.
I still follow Game Ranks. Yeah, I think I've listened to a couple of Falcon's videos and he's usually pretty based. Not thinking big corpo games. Keck, you're the indies? Hell yeah.
The immediate information I can find is usually just distributed by a larger publisher with larger budgets.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
really
thought at one point
seeing-
it was the name rating. Like the first like AAA games were from studios that
Yeah.
had like already 3 A-tier games. I guess I was wrong. I don't know why I thought that.
on the
Yeah.
shutdown, we'd pretty much never know they
The
existed.
Verge.
Like Netflix's Studio Boom,
Verge.
it was supposed to be building some AAA IP, and it was closed without even announcing what they were working on. Casey Hudson,
It's kinda
the
pathetic.
director of the Mass Effect games, and a guy who founded a new studio.
Also, though, I'd hate to pull this again. What is up with game studios failing the sunken cost fallacy? That like normally you'd be like, okay, guys, we have this entire studio set up. We have all these things going. We're working on the game, blah, 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 blah. And instead of being like, let's continue. Well, never mind. They're not failing. I think technically they're succeeding over the sunken cost fallacy by giving up on it, coming to a realization that rather than spending probably exorbitantly more money if they didn't even like start true development on it. But can you imagine starting a whole studio company and then just being like, you know what? Maybe this wasn't a good idea.
I don't understand it. Like, at least let the product finish itself.
The thing is, they could have also been like funding shortfall is what this one says. So it's also between, well, I mean, it was Netflix. Netflix would have had enough money to give them tax
It's
write-off
just a
that's being
matter of-
exploited for these, usually.
I would assume it's similar to how animations, like, you know, Warner's cut
Yeah.
the
Megas
Wile E.
XLR
Coyote
to the point
movie.
where like,
yeah.
man, this
For
show
the
wasn't very good. Okay, we'll never air it again. And now we get a big tax cut for it.
Exactly. Like, that could be why. Which is also a theme that needs to stop, is things being cut for the sole purposes of we don't feel like paying taxes.
God, it's also the same thing with like streaming services now, rather than adding more and more stuff. Because you know, as tech develops currently, a bunch of things keeps like storage space just keeps getting bigger and bigger. But rather, they're just like, you know what, we're gonna get rid of these instead of like maybe increasing our space or something, or better utilizing what we have.
Why would we actually be productive?
Unless whatever company that bought like Cartoon Network is now tax writing off all of their shows. I don't know how that would work legally because like they got rid of Ed, Ed and Eddie off of the streaming service, and that's like
It's rights ownership. It's usually an argument about who gets to own what, because for some reason rights get passed around, and then eventually it gets dumped and it becomes lost media, and it's
ain't no way in hell is Ed,
upsetting.
Ed and Eddie ever going to become lost media.
I don't think so, no, but in this day and age, it's sad that it's even a possibility. I think Midas might be right. I think he owns its IP, at least where is that cartoon is concerned. And then Rocksteady also makes a point, is that a lot of cost gets underestimated as well.
Yeah. They don't want to be fed. They want to be engorged. Yes, that is exactly it.
They want profit line go up.
We'll probably see it in
forever.
this because we're still only on number 10. But there's the thing where industries or like studios and their executives keep setting inexorbitantly impossibly high goals for games where they're like, oh, what was, I think Concord technically, like they had to be the #1 best-selling game ever just to break even.
Jesus Christ.
And that was never going to happen regardless of that. Like they would have not made profit off of that game with how much they invested into it. Or they constantly release games with these expectations that they're going to be the X killer. And it sets the roof so high that the game is impossible to succeed.
I think attempting to be the killer of like any like large piece of media, especially a game, is very idiotic. And I feel like a lot of these people could have saved themselves if they would have just invested into making a good product.
Correct.
Like the tech bro mindset of haha, profit margin always go up, he who, has infected games to the point where it's just starting to become rot all the way down, and it's deeply upsetting.
Mal, the VTuber killer, she demands your sub. We are only 5 subs away from hitting 200.
5 subs.
Corporate companies,
so
when profit goes down by even 0.1%. All right, pull the plug, it's a flop.
Yeah, but that's what they do. Like, the line bumps down ever so slightly, and they can't buy their 8th yacht, and suddenly it's a crisis situation.
Or it's like they release a shooter game and they're like, wait, what do you mean this didn't do good as the best Halo ever made? What do you mean this isn't as good as Halo 3 or Halo Reach?
We
Well, guess
took
we're going to have
all
to take
of
your
the-
gerbs.
Yeah. We took all the basic bullshit elements and added nothing unique to it and expected it to sell just as good as this one, so why didn't it?
Oh shit, the bubble pop sell. Did he buy? Yeah, he bought. Dump it.
Heaven forbid that your wallet is a little less bloated.
Especially when your wallet's the size of a fucking 10-story size skyscraper.
Especially when you have more money than God's wallet. Like, good lord.
Hi, Lou.
Or worse, they add microchip. Yeah. Yeah.
She's gonna fire fish paste? No, I'm gonna fire fish paste because TTRPG. Did I just see my breath? Okay, no, I didn't. I thought I saw my breath for a second.
I was about to say, if it's getting that cold in your room, please put on like extra clothes or a blanket.
I'm wearing a hoodie and the thickest sweatpants I have. If it gets too cold, even wearing this, I'll go put on like the warmer tights that I have and then put the sweatpants back on.
Okay, good. Also, hi Lou. It's nice to see you.
We took all the flavor out of the slop. What do you mean you hate it now? Correct.
Mm-hmm. It's not even sensually peppered.
Do you have a space heater? No, I do not.
It's okay.
Studio called Humanoid Origins. They also shut down. Nothing to show for itself. Probably remember Neon Koi, the studio that Sony shut down at the same time as Firewalk. You know, the Concord.
Oh, I forgot about Neon Koi.
Sony
Firewalk was the one that made
different studio
Concord.
called Deviation, made up of former Call of Duty devs they acquired back in 2020, and they were working on some kind of PlayStation exclusive game. We don't know what it was, and we probably never will. I think.
Remember when the
we're also kind of past
actually-
the years of exclusives.
Not just to Call
Yeah,
of
but
Duty
remember when the
clone,
PlayStation
not so
actually
sure
had
that
games?
would've lit the
I
world on
remember.
fire.
I want more
Would've been nice to know, though.
Detroit.
It's not a completely new trend. Starting
Detroit,
out,
give
is
us
always the
games.
most dangerous time for any game
Please.
studio, or even
Please,
developers.
Mr. Sony.
And if they don't have the
Please, you
funds
made a
to
really
support
cool world.
themselves, or rather, the larger entity that created or bought them doesn't have the funds
Game.
to continue running it, then
Game.
that's it. It seems
Oh,
like
is this
there were
Concord?
more high-profile studios closing with nothing to show for it. Like, think
Hi,
of
Prey.
another stupid gimmick to trick clueless investors into unloading a dump truck full of money on top of startup game devs. Used to be NFTs and the blockchain. Yeah, we just need
Oh,
something
yes, now
else
it's
like
corporations,
that. Make it more
enticing
pointless,
investors
like,
with-
play-to-earn AI that creates.
Oh, that's the AI. That's an AI game I saw.
blockchain on the cloud.
Ew.
Somehow it creates.
Hold on. So I've seen a video on this game before and tried to learn more about it. This is a mobile NFT game. You have to buy these little creatures, the ones on the left, and they are inexorbitantly expensive because if I remember correctly, this game uses Ethereum.
Okay.
And so it's like some of these little creatures go as high as like $10,000. And it's just,
Okay.
people play it because apparently the more you play it, you get their in-game currency that can then be converted to crypto, that can then be converted to USD.
No, that's too many
The thing
conversions.
is, you have to continuously play it. It has become a big thing in like the Philippines and stuff because there are people that play this mobile game because it feeds their family.
On the one hand, actually, no, I'm not glad that they're playing a game that can feed their family. We shouldn't exist in a world where you have to play a crypto mobile game to feed your family.
Oh, no, Doc. The game is free. You can play the game. You can, quote, play the game for free. You don't get any of these little monsters, though, to actually play the game. You have to
Like,
pay for
good on
them.
them. Like, good on them for finding a way to survive in a capitalist dystopia. But Jesus Christ, we really are in a capitalist dystopia.
But-
this is not the cyberpunk future I wanted.
This is like, so each one of these three creatures on the left cost money.
No.
Give us your money.
Money.
Loads of accounts to get rare items, etc. They would sell the account to someone else. It's not exactly lucrative in that way because this game actually doesn't rely on fully just doing dailies. It just relies on continuous play and continuous progression. It's weirdly, it's like, it feels like the early parts of like, if you've ever read like a manhwa that has like full dive technology and stuff, and they're always like, oh, well, this in-game currency translates to about the X number of won. And so like people are getting rich off of playing an MMO.
I see.
That's what this makes me think of as like an early version of that. But
No, that
it's
makes
just
sense.
So it's not even free then? Yes. Also, we can talk about that the little blue thing with the fishtail has like 2 crab claws coming off the top of it.
It's an AI game, Marin. The designs aren't going to make any sense.
AI that creates a blockchain on the cloud. Somehow it creates fidget spinners. I don't know. Go on,
The
game
fidget
devs without any
spinners.
good ideas otherwise. Take that one. Let's say for free for now, but if you get anywhere with it, you're owing me money. Also,
I'm gonna pause
you
it on
won't-
9 because the ad break's
And
about to
number
start
9
any
is fun
second.
as-
Nope.
Nope.
Unnecessary
paused.
something, but we will hold off on that, and I will give chat their
But
Witchy
what's
iPod.
unnecessary?
But what's unnecessary?
But what's unnecessary?
What could it be? All right, Sunstar, you have control of the game. I need to run and actually move my laundry over to the dryer.
Mm.
I will be back
I've got
momentarily.
control.
Faye, you were in charge. Sunstar, you have the TV remote.
Excellent. I will mind the children.
Burn all the useless games with AI. Do it.
Do it. Quick, cat. No, oh, come now. Surely you can play with your words a little bit before burning down the carnival, please. It takes so much effort to clean up. There's so much. Is that Isabella Ooze?
I was supposed to ask. Hold on.
Oh. Oh, never mind. Gotta follow the rules. She was here and then she was gone. I miss her already. I'm so lonely, chat. Chat, I'm so lonely.
Actually, I'll leave when Marin comes back, and then I'll ask again.
Oh, okay.
Because I just wanted to say hi to you.
Aw, hi dear. How are you today?
Good. I'm eating spaghetti
Oh, hell yeah. I love spaghetti.
with sriracha sauce.
Spaghetti with sriracha sauce. That sounds interesting.
It is very spicy.
That sounds yummy. Blame the Greek Fae. I ranted about the Greeks last time. I'm not ranting about Greece again. We've already done it.
Where did Marin go?
Laundry.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Turning
What's
over
chat
the
doing
wall.
today?
Yeah, chat, how are you doing today? I think they're playing words right now, or some of them are.
They're winning. They're doing really good.
They're doing very good. They have one more to go. Oh, Midas, I'm sorry about your toe. That's never any fun. That can be very uncomfortable.
Oh, Marin's here. Hold on.
Oh, shit! I can't hear you.
I was muted.
Oh,
I was like,
I was
Izzy? Izzy?
she ran away.
What you doing here?
What you doing, Izzy?
All right, we still got a minute. They can do another round. That gives me time to go hunt down the thing I was going to show you.
Yeah.
Where is it? Where is it?
Marin, can I hang out? Melwin, can Izzy come play?
Yes, Izzy can come play.
Yeah!
Wait, I think I sent it to y'all in the group thing. Yeah, I did. I think I sent it to y'all in the group. In those gay vampire bitches.
Yeah, those gay vampire bitches.
Yeah, I did.
I thought it'd be really funny if I just like didn't join again. If I was like,
but I would.
Yeah.
I would be
You're gonna
saying
upset
it.
Faye.
It's true. I will cry.
I could never upset Faye.
Aw, I'm so loved.
How was laundry? Yeah, chat. This is the first time I've been in here. How's everyone doing today?
Yeah, Izzy definitely wasn't
Totally the
here.
first time. How's your day been, Izzy?
Good. I'm eating spaghetti with sriracha sauce.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Is it good?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Are we-
Is it like is this like average? Is this spaghetti noodles with sriracha sauce, or is this like spaghetti like meat sauce with sriracha sauce?
Oh, good question.
It's just noodles with sriracha sauce.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Mm.
My brain was like, is it a meat sauce or is it a tomato sauce within sriracha sauce? That's not how I was picturing it. I was like, that sounds interesting. Sounds like it
Both?
could be good.
Both would
I
be
just-
interesting.
I just use like a spoon of what is essentially just like Italian dressing. Like just a spoonful, pour that on, and then it's just Parmesan cheese and I put sriracha on it.
A simple meal. I can respect it. I've done
Also,
something.
Gannon,
I've done other things. Huh?
Gannon, Rav isn't here. You can't bully Rav.
Izzy shows up. Gannon's just like, let's go bully Rav together. No, Izzy's here.
Izzy is here now.
I need to grab Rav for more things because I do want to play games and stuff with him more. The last time we hung out was like when Darktide was a big thing.
Yeah, I wonder if they're doing the collab with Red Claw today. 'Cause they
Maybe.
do Thursday. Thursday is Monster Hunter Worlds for them.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
Red did
put it
say
up.
at the end of our stream on Tuesday that that's what he was doing.
Mhm.
Marvel Ravels.
Mibble Ribble.
Mibble Ribble.
I hit gold and I'm not touching it until next season.
I still need. Well, that's today, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Did you see the Invisible Woman skin for the rank?
Fuck yeah, I've seen it. Malice.
No.
There's another one?
There's another one
Wait,
What
for
do you
what?
mean there's another one?
for ranked.
Say that again.
For ranked.
Oh no, I haven't. What is
She's
it?
gonna be the ranked skin. Like how
Okay.
Moon Knight was.
What is it? Do I need to Google it? I need to Google it.
Forget all of this trends in gaming stuff. This is very important.
Season 1 rewards. It's Battle Pass.
For Battle Pass.
Maybe the 19-hour one? What is? Damn it!
Type in ranked.
Maybe the 5 hours one will have an update in it. New characters. Ooh. I heard there's apparently a looping staircase on the new map.
Oh.
There's an infinite staircase that just loops back.
I need to
But-
make space on the PC for Mibble Ribble so I can learn how to play, but I'm also keeping my PC full of things so Windows 11 stops trying to install itself.
Upgrade to Windows 11.
No!
Join us.
No! No. Not after what happened to my mixer bricking my mic and then almost bricking my computer that I couldn't talk to anybody and I was very lonely for all of 3 hours.
Based around player factions. Huh.
I'm guessing it's instead of roll queue, it's gonna be like this person is from this team. The mutants,
Probably.
the Asgardians, the Guardians.
It's called Doom Match, so I kind of half expected to be join past Doom, join future Doom.
They I don't know if that's the game mode of free for all.
Could be.
There's a free for all mode that XQC accidentally leaked yesterday because he's an idiot.
Well,
Oh wait, was it just in the was it the creator thing? The creator servers?
I guess the people who got access early.
Yeah, I people were streaming matches, but it seemed like they were doing normal matches. Interesting. He did that shit on purpose.
Oh yeah.
He's XQC. All right, anyway.
Anyway.
Let's figure out what this unnecessary blank is.
Unnecessary
remakes.
what?
The industry went
Unnecessary
crazy
remakes.
in 2024. They were
That's
a lot
true.
of remakes. It was
Listen,
kind of
Final
absurd.
Fantasy's
I
remake
know
was
the
good.
absolute
These other
failures
ones
of these things are
probably
starting to
weren't
make people
needed.
sour on the
The
basic
Dead
ideas of
Space
roles in general.
one was
But I'm not
okay.
quite there yet. Like,
Oh, that
some
wasn't
of
this
these
year, though.
are, some of these
Was
are pretty
it?
high
I don't
quality,
think it was
that
this
make me
year.
happy.
Was it?
Was it not
Silent Hill 2 comes
2024?
to mind.
I could have swore it
Any
was, like, in the
Resident Evil
summertime.
remake comes to mind.
I could be
Third-person
insane,
mode
though.
in Resident Evil
That is a
Village
thing
comes
that
to
I
mind. Is that
suffer
a
from.
remake? Does that qualify? I don't know. Ha! It doesn't. I know. Don't actually argue with me on that. But see, here's the problem. Sometimes it's really nice to have those older games play on more modern hardware, or even updated to be something that takes the story and uses it in a manner that's better.
Oh, you already lost your hat.
Yeah, you're right, Bray.
Would go
No,
to the
not the
Resident
hat.
Evil 2 remake before I went.
I was gonna say the Final Fantasy VII remake was good. It was like a really, really different remake.
Everybody is going to, but
And is even adding more than the original game
I prefer the
had.
new Resident Evil 4, but those things are kind of
But, like-
the ideal. And as you know, there's only one number one, and obviously there's more than one good remake. But
There's only one number
it's not
one.
really the majority of it.
What were
Look, we
some of
wouldn't
the
be
other ones
complaining
that
about
did?
this
Oh,
if every one
Horizon
of
Zero
these
Dawn
things
did
was a
not need a
Resident Evil
remake.
4 or a Silent Hill
Yeah, I
2.
wondered why
A lot
they
of them are pretty
redid
pointless,
that one. I don't
actually.
understand
They
it.
don't really improve the experience at all, and you could play the original just fine. Pointing at
Yeah, I have the original complete edition. I don't see a reason to get the other kinds.
Sony, though, was the crowning king of these utterly unnecessary upgrades. They mostly amount
Last of
to
Us?
a new and exciting.
Yeah, I
reason
still didn't
to
understand
buy
having
those
Last of
games
Us
at new
remakes.
game prices. Like Last of Us
'Cause those
Part
games
2,
still look
quote-unquote,
good.
Remastered. It could have easily just been a PS5 update, but you know they sold it for.
I feel like
$40, which I
remasters
know
should be
is a
saved for
low
games
price
that are
for a
like
new game, but that's
10,
not
15 plus
PS5
years
update price
old.
Like at most that should be a few dollars. Yes, they threw in some extras to pretend to justify the price, but
Pretend to
they put out
justify.
a remake of Horizon Zero
Pretend.
Dawn as well. And
Very
there's a little
vaguely
more nuance to this one. The game does actually look quite
give a
a
shit
bit better,
about.
but the original still looks good. I mean, aside from the potato faces, I definitely prefer the
Hey.
graphical overhaul faces a lot more.
Oh, wait,
than the
what?
faces
What were you
from
saying,
the
Izzy?
sequel, Forbidden
Well, you
West.
see what
They're just-
happened
they're a lot
was-
better
Well, you see,
than the
Sony
original
really
game's
likes
faces.
milking
And I'm
things.
talking about every character,
True.
every single character. They
Sony
look
wouldn't
weird.
do
That was actually
that.
one of my main gripes about Horizon
Would
Zero Dawn,
they?
and then they fixed it. So in some ways, I do think that was a necessary remake, but in other ways, I mean, the original does look pretty damn good still. Now, to be fair,
Yeah.
they did make that upgrade
Mhm.
cheap for people who already owned the game, but for people who didn't, I don't know if it justifies.
Is that only on PC? I forget, was the remake PC only?
You know, and for PC
My
players,
question
all it
is,
really did was
is
make
it
the
really a
system
remake,
requirements
or do
higher,
they-
fun,
do they
paying for the
just-
privilege of
Like a
being
graphic
on the list.
update.
And then there's the
Well,
Until
but, like,
Dawn remake. I mean, it's easy.
Is it that,
to
or
these
did they
get lost in
design
the
it
show. I
that
almost
way and
forgot
then turn like the dial down, right? Like to release it on consoles,
True.
right? And then they're like, oh, well, we already have the game. We're just gonna re-release it because we've already done the work for it.
Then I would have figured that then they would have launched it that way on PC.
No, because you could make more money the other way.
That's true. Never mind, carry on. Yeah,
Carry
Until Dawn
on.
did not need a remake either.
this existed.
Yeah,
And
no.
the fact that it was marginally worse than the original is fucking hilarious.
It does look better than the
It
original.
looked so much
there's
better, though.
positives about it. I'm not going to say there aren't, but it's otherwise identical.
I
to
heard
the
there were so
original
many
game that came
bugs
out
with
on
it.
PS4, which is perfectly playable on modern hardware.
No,
I mean,
the
I don't
ending
want
was,
to say
I think,
it's
no,
completely.
no,
it's not
it was all
completely
good.
Identical. That's wrong.
Was
It
it?
looked
I
a
remember
lot
people
better.
having like so many
Dawn,
issues
again,
with
at
it
a
that
good
like
price,
faces were
adding
like
a
doing
new
weird
ending isn't
distortions.
that big of a deal.
People were
But
like
with the
in
way
the
that
background
things
when they
have
were
been
supposed to be
going,
like standing
I doubt
still
the
somewhere
remake train is
else.
gonna be stopping anytime soon. But if it's not too much, could you guys at least try to justify their existence? Like make it significantly more of something? At number 8 is AI voice actors, and again,
Is this gonna be on the finals?
There is some nuance here.
Oh, I am
So
not
everybody's
surprised
going
Foam
AI
Stars was all
crazy.
AI
It's
nonsense.
not a surprise
Oh.
that we're starting to see AI generated images
Fun.
creep into games. I'm a person who doesn't.
Foam Stars is a
automatically think
hold on.
that is bad.
Foam Stars, if anybody hasn't seen Foam Stars, it is an attempt at like making a more, we'll call it more adult Splatoon. But the thing is it doesn't connect with anyone as like Splatoon does, because as soon as you load into the game, you're like, oh, this is some kind of like Neo Las Vegas in the future run by a bunch of wealthy millionaires and billionaires, and that's who you play as. You are a bunch of millionaires and billionaires and celebrities covering the streets in foam and surfboarding around.
So an average day in summer in California?
Yes.
I see.
Yes, completely disconnected from the player base.
Mm-hmm.
It's for 0.01% of the game's art. What?
What?
Why describe it like that?
generate.
What is this
images to the game.
0.01%?
I'm a person who doesn't automatically think
It
that.
sounds
is
like I
bad.
tried to walk it
However,
back.
I do want to
Yeah.
say that in a lot of
So
cases,
guys, we
it
use
is
AI,
bad
but it was like
because
really, really tiny.
doesn't
So
look
like,
as good. And
you know.
let's talk about
Yeah.
AI voice acting for a minute. It's generally
I was gonna say, this is
worse
the High
than
on
the
Life.
AI generated art that gets put in the game.
Oh, I do know. I know this
Which,
game
again,
too.
can
This
be
was
good
like a
and
mystery
can be
game.
bad. There is a certain amount of effort that needs to go into anything. You shouldn't just be.
I remember seeing a
typing in
video on it because I was like, I'm
things
never
that
gonna
are
play this
short
game
and
because the
vaguely
the
describe
character
something
motion
and
made me
slap it on top of
nauseous.
something else. You should
Well, the
be
way he's
creating
holding that
detailed
flashlight
prompts
looks like
and
his
also
arm's
doing a lot of
broken. Nobody
manual
holds a
work to the
flashlight
thing
that
comes
way.
out of
The
it,
stray
et cetera,
fat
et
Buddha
cetera.
statue.
AI voice actors much
Yeah.
worse. Much worse.
So what?
I
your
hold
boyfriend
flashlights
here?
like that.
There's no need for him to be here to make
Izzy,
me an
is your arm okay?
orgasm.
What?
Yeah.
Izzy doesn't need.
Much
Izzy can
worse.
sacrifice
And we're
one
not
arm.
seeing
She's
it
still got 4
super
tentacles.
commonly. The only real
Oh,
noteworthy
true.
high-profile
I also hold the
example
knife
of a game
below
using
the
AI
other
voices
arm.
that got a lot of
Oh,
pushback,
I see, I see.
was the finals.
Cash boxes will be on the move.
Yeah.
God, I remember them trying to justify the finals AI characters. Bye.
Opening a vault.
That's not even. Those aren't the announcers that they're using now, though.
It still sounds bad.
Oh, it's very, very AI. The thing is, though, is they got better AI fucking voices later on.
Oh,
This is this sounds like the
yay.
monotone one from like the beta.
Hmm. I don't care for that. I don't
Just
care
throw
for
it
any
in
of
band
it.
or don't band. Don't hold it there.
Oh.
You're some weird who has enough money to genetically modify yourself to get foam shooting superpowers and thought that was actually good. That is correct, Nizumi. That is the plot line. But yeah, the finals has everything in it is basically AI voice actors. They got better later on in the case of that the AI voice actors got better and they actually have like some emotion to them, but it's still very uncomfortable. And the way they justified it was just like, oh, but then we don't have to keep having people come into the studio to re-record lines. Now it's just like auto-generated for fun little reactions. Teehee.
No. Hire voice actors. Pay them. Pay them if you need to re-record. Just fucking pay them.
Have you seen the new
Holy shit.
generation NPC companions and videos introducing with PUBG? Who the fuck plays PUBG?
PUBG is still alive?
In the year of our Lord 2025?
It's bots.
Yeah.
So they're generating AI companions for bots? Bots for bots?
But there's
Bots
Well,
for bots.
that's my
AI
question,
voices
right?
where
Is
they're
that
not good?
who is like what's to stop a company from saying that they have all these sales when in reality it could just be people creating these AIs, right? Like Facebook is doing.
Yeah, people do that with like the book market too. A lot of New York Times bestsellers are the fucking publishers buying their own books back.
Yep.
They created an artificial supply or an artificial demand that then like basically pushes their own numbers so that it becomes a New York Times bestseller. So then it looks better to the actual buyers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does anybody remember when, was it Trump? I think Trump released his own book and then he was dumb and showed a picture of his own house where he bought like 10,000 copies and they were all just in boxes in his house.
Yeah. I remember.
Easier to get into than a McDonald's if you have enough money. But usually that having enough money is publishers buying your books.
I mean, the bestseller list and getting into a McDonald's franchise is both fairly easy to do with the right amount of cash. So
At least it's not a Subway franchise. If you don't do well enough as a Subway franchise, they take it away and give it to somebody else. And you have no say in the matter. It's depressing. Can you imagine investing like all of your savings trying to like you get like a Subway franchise and you work there your whole time, but you just aren't making ends meet? So corporate comes by and is like, yeah, we're giving your franchise to Austin. He already runs 8 others in the area and is fairly successful with them. So it's his now. No, we're not going to give you any sort of reimbursement.
Like,
I am sorry.
We live in a society.
We do live in a society, a sandwich society.
I get a Subway. Do not go to Subway.
Like,
Fairbanks,
they're
no.
technically good. They sound like
Fairbanks,
they're
no.
technically good. They sound like a person talking.
Do
They
they?
sound like a person.
Do they?
Who
I mean, a lot of
lives
things sound
in
like a person
library,
talking.
and not a good library.
An automaton
Dull,
can sound like a person talking.
lifeless, soulless, crappy voice act. Like, not funny voice acting, might I add. AI voice actors are they're not there yet. So, like, I want to make it clear. I think there's
Hire
ways
me, I'll
that
do it for
AI
cheap.
Voice acting could be good, but I will also argue that it's not.
I'll do it for
It's generally
$25
not.
and a
In their current
box of
state
chicken
of
nuggets.
Development temporary tracks and stuff like that.
I do
might
like
be
to
the only
see that we're
actually
starting to see the
appropriate place for them.
fallout
And a lot of
of
people say, well, there's
AI though.
Agreed.
Yeah, at least creatively. I really like seeing it falling out creatively.
Well, it's they can't make anything anymore with it.
Oh yeah, because they've poisoned their own stock.
Yeah, so much of it is now being fed to itself. Basically, once that big list broke from that Discord server
The
of
like
all the
10,000
artists,
yeah.
the 10,000 plus artists that were being fed into the machines, and people started suing essentially, and the court started ruling in the favor of the artists as opposed to the AI. It basically just started eating its own slop, and now it can't produce fucking anything worthy anymore. Not that it ever did.
It's not just with art, it's with everything. Like it just they're asking for what was it? I was reading an article about it. They're asking for access to a lot of stuff that they shouldn't have because there's no
because they claim that like it wouldn't be feasible without the free intake of art.
Yeah, we have to be allowed to steal was basically their argument. And now the fact that it's having such a negative impact on the environment as well. The fastest way to destroy any brand trust that the consumer had in you is to put AI somewhere in your product.
It doesn't help either that they started using the words AI for things that were like have been around for a long time, but definitely weren't actually AI because they started using it as a marketing buzzword.
That shit drives me insane.
I think the thing that bothers my brain right now is I used to call like NPCs in a game. I would call them the AI is just like actually kind of decent in this game, and it'd be like, well, now I can't use that because
no.
Well, that's what it is though.
That is exactly what it is, but it's like people get like the wrong idea from it.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that there are things that do qualify as AI. The issue is that is with generative AI. It's generative AI that is the problem. And like I think we all saw like before Twitter went straight to hell that the controversy about like the Spider-Verse movies, about how they used like a certain algorithmic program to help them animate, and everybody thought they were using generative AI, and there was a huge fucking argument about what an actual tool is versus the slot machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at its conception. Wait, what? Conception. I'm trying to figure out what Carrie's talking about. So at its conception.
Twitter was not always a hellscape. Twitter used to be just a place, just a social media platform. And then the Tumblr bubble popped. A lot of them migrated to Twitter. And then it became an all-out battleground for a bunch of shitty people doing shitty things. And then Elon got broken up with, and in order to fuck with his ex-partner, he decided to buy the site. And that whole thing has just been one big ego trip for a fascist. I'm going to step off my soapbox now.
Environmental impact. I read that apparently there's also areas where AI farms are affecting local power grids. Yes.
Yes.
Because a single use of ChatGPT uses more, like makes a bigger carbon footprint than you would on average.
Yep.
Like by simply asking a question of ChatGPT, you have now multiplied your average carbon footprint for the year. I think it's 8. I think it's 8 times. I think one use multiplies your carbon footprint by 8.
Yeah, it's like 8 times, and then it also increases water consumption by a metric fuckload. So
Yay, cooling.
I do find it quite fascinating that does nobody like raise their eyebrows when they see that the person who was going to whistleblow fucking died?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the thing though, is like it's a world for the rich. The guy that you're talking about, the one that was like killed in his apartment.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, what that wasn't for, was that for AI or was that for crypto?
No, that was for AI.
Okay.
Yep.
That was for OpenAI, wasn't it? It was the OpenAI whistleblower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's not even the only one in just the past year. It happens every time. And every time you look at it, everybody's like, that's fucking obvious as shit. Isn't somebody going to do something about it? And then nobody ever does anything.
Well, by talking about it, we are technically doing the one thing they don't want us to do, which is draw attention to it. That's kind of why it's important to talk about these things openly and to point out, this is fucking bullshit. You can't shoot yourself in the back of the head. Like, forgive me for being graphic, but like, you can't do that. That's not physically possible.
Well, the whistleblower's mother said that apparently there were signs of a struggle.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, look at that.
Guys, there's evidence here. Aren't you going to investigate? All the cops just giving you a side eye and walking away. Huh. I see. I guess I'm going to the media.
Well, I mean, why do you think we haven't heard anything about Luigi's Mansion? The narrative didn't go the way the ruling class wanted it to.
Correct. Also, did you hear about the wildfire and state and private fire insurance in California with the wildfires raging over there? That they just suddenly started dropping people?
Yep.
While the fires were raging towards their house?
Yep.
How do you just drop somebody off your insurance?
Yep, that's that. They can apparently, and they did.
Oh, insurance.
There's
America.
people that there's a wildfire raging towards their house, and they're just like, "All right, guys, we don't have insurance anymore. Bye, we're taking your money."
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, they can just do that.
Same thing with insurance. They can just do that because we've given them. We've developed a system where they can just do that. They can just tell you, no, you can't have life-saving medical aid. No, we're not going to give you the money back that you paid into us the last 5, 10, 15 plus years. It's ours now. We have no obligation to give you any care. Just keep paying us.
Most of the time, they usually adjust it based on, like, they're basically moving the line as to, like, income qualification.
I mean, that's like you can't get flood insurance in Florida anymore.
Mm-hmm. No, you can't. Well, that's because most insurance companies are pulling out of the state because of what's happening to it, but I'm not going to get too deep into that here because it's very upsetting. But a lot of the times with insurance companies, it'll either be a monetary thing where they're just gonna be like, you no longer make enough, or actually you make too much. Fuck you. We hate you. Or you didn't get this inspection on this day 6 years ago, even though we never told you you were supposed to have one. And then for medical insurance, it's usually just, we don't feel like covering this medicine anymore because it's too expensive, or we have decided you now have a pre-existing condition. Go fuck yourself.
They'll like check your medical history. It'll be something like, oh, you had bunions back in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pre-existing condition there, pal.
Mm-hmm.
Can't believe you didn't tell us about it. Gonna have to drop you on this one, champ. Anyway, good luck on let me see, what does it say here on this paper? Oh right, liver cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's see what this other nonsense is going to be, since we're sticking with what this is still. Is this AI or is this the remake still?
Because Marvel Rivals Titan isn't ran on stolen content, for one, and for two, it's not devouring the electrical grids of various countries. That's why it's worse. The impact that a group of people have, like a LAN party, have on playing Marvel Rivals is minute compared to the shit that generative AI is doing to power grids in the environment.
Yeah, you're comparing a single apple to an orchard. And with the case of like people playing Marvel Rivals. Plus, no, they don't often use closed system cooling for AI farms. They're usually basically factory level. Intake water, outtake.
Yep. So
Regardless.
this AI,
Yeah,
Really
which
advanced. No, there isn't. You can tell it's an AI voice actor. It's a bad performance, and you can tell it's an AI
Oh, that's what it
voice
was. There's
actor.
also
So,
like the
no, I don't accept
God, I
that.
can't imagine being somebody
and here's
standing in the
thing,
room
it's-
and being
it's
like, yeah,
so-
this'll do. No, the fuck
easy
it won't.
To get a voice actor nowadays.
No,
There's
not
really
at
no
all.
excuse not to use a real person. I'm right here. None of you have asked me to be a voice actor in your game. And it would be so easy to get
Let
into your
me
game.
in!
Just saying.
Let me in!
For every team that has decided to use AI over Falcon the Hero, which I might add is literally everybody who has used AI, because nobody has ever asked me to be in their game. I'm having fun with this. I don't have aspirations. I would if asked, but don't have aspirations. And the reason why is because there's plenty of great actual voice actors who should have.
Oh god,
work.
insurance
Like,
will always
it's
be a scam no matter
understandable
where
that
you live,
voice actors
correct?
are going on
It's
strike
true.
over the threat of AI voice work. I get it.
Hi,
though.
Donkler.
I get the thinking behind it. And a lot of major industry figures seem to be in
It is a
support of
corporate
this, like
hellscape.
even
That's why
guys
we're
like
getting
Tim
on a
Sweeney,
boat.
who are terminally techno-brain supported.
Boat.
And what it all really boils down to is these AI voices just do not sound that good. In isolated chunks, they can sound pretty convincing, but there's a reason that acting is acting.
Look at that boa.
There's a human
Joker!
coding experience.
Joker, it's the
It's
Jonkler.
basically that for everything. There's appropriate places to use these types of things, but unless there's some human intervention, some direct.
That is a nice boat.
that's a nice boat.
Literally
I'm
just
the
going to say Jonkler. Jonkler.
Why is it that I say Jonkler and everyone's like, I've never heard that in my life before? And then you say it and everyone's like, oh yeah.
I have no idea what it's from. I just like the word Jonkler.
I heard it from you.
Yeah. But like, I've
I'm
said it before.
sorry.
People are like, no, you're fine. But people
Okay.
I've talked to have been like, that sounds like a slur. And I'm like, you've never heard of the word the Jonkler?
I have not. I only think it's the word sounds funny.
I'm the Joker, baby.
They just said it. And you just said it.
I said the word. I just thought it sounded funny.
It is funny sounding.
That's all.
Jonkler.
That's all I know. I just think it sounds funny. No fireballs indoors.
Also, hi Ren. Also, I'm gonna go lay down.
I enjoy your
down.
nap. I hope your
And
spaghetti
cry.
was good.
No, don't cry.
No,
No.
Can't
crying.
stop me.
No crying, Izzy. No. All right, chat. Can y'all drop like $200 in Izzy's Ko-fi? Anyway, it's time to shout out Izzy.
Yeah, shout out Izzy. Drop the Ko-fi link. Gift Saboobles.
Or you can give it to me, and I can go ahead and pay the artist for the next background.
you.
No, you won't.
I was gonna ask her if she promised. Jonkler trademark.
Jonkler
payment.
trademark payment. Amazing. All right, let's see where this next one's gonna go.
You know,
We've only made
or-
it 3 in technically.
Kind of just lifeless and doesn't work.
Wait,
and I'm
that's
talking about
Cyberpunk.
voice actors, but that really it's across the board for AI. AI can be amazing. It's also
For
allowing
you,
people
Faye, every time.
who are very lazy to
Yay!
I couldn't
do
stand
things
this
that
game.
suck, but kind of
I did not
seem
get the appeal
not
for
to suck,
High on
but they
Life.
suck.
It was a disappointing, shitty game. High on Life was. It was also horrendously optimized, and that was even before because Sai wanted to play it, and that was even before her PC started having the issues that it had.
Yeah.
And it should have ran just fine, but it was just dog shit. It took stoner and party culture and just made it into the worst kind of shitpost.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mods that use AI voice actors, that makes sense if somebody modded an actual content patch. I've never done any of those. I have no idea what people have
Still
fixed in.
shouldn't use AI voice actors though.
That's true. But it's also, did you listen to this announcer's voice?
We're about to get a bit more explosive as contestants that are eliminated in the arena will go kaboom.
And number 7, graphic updates.
Okay.
That sounded like somebody with a jangly, hi Pickles, Luppers.
Aww.
It sounds like somebody who's like Discord is slowly disconnecting.
Yeah, the robot sound, like literal.
It had that like little
the...
garbly to it.
Mm-hmm.
Make games worse. This should not
Hating
be
AI
a
is like
trend,
hating
but
Forks.
in
AI is a tool. Hate how
2024,
certain people
just
use it, not the fact that AI
normally
exists.
updates are supposed to be your friend.
I mean, if it's like a real AI, the only thing I would do with like a real AI is make it do menial tasks.
Did we have examples?
So the rest of humanity can enjoy
AI.
life, planet, and the arts.
Games, they made them a lot worse.
I'm putting my foot down. Generative AI, Daedric, should not exist. It is not a tool.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It is a
Generative AI
definition.
should not exist at all.
She just made stuff run worse on modern
Actual,
consoles compared to the old
proper,
version. The
artificial
graphics didn't really look
intelligence-based
much
tools,
better. And even
completely
worse,
different.
The update completely broke mod support on PC.
I hate
Will
that
also
whenever they were like, all right, guys, we're making AI. What's the first thing we should do with it? Let's go for the arts. What? But why not make it like run a factory or like
What
do
I wanna know is
labor or actually perfect like self-driving vehicles, maybe even self-operating vehicles?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing, though, is I don't want AI to drive my car or be in my refrigerator.
Oh no, I mean like an AI like garbage truck.
But like, yeah, like things like that, sure. But the issue I have with it is that human beings have been shown to treat anything that looks like it has a modicum of intelligence like shit.
Yep.
And I need us to get our act together before we start building artificial brains that can think.
It'd be even worse. Like AI that could like was self-learning would be actually self-learning. Because do you know how fucking stupid and selfish humanity is? Can you imagine AI being like, guys, I think this is a really dumb idea. Here's a much more efficient and much better long run idea. And then of course whoever was fucking like pitched that initially was like, are you calling me stupid?
Yeah.
How dare you? You're just a program. Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you make the AI there, champ? If you didn't want its help.
Exactly.
Or did you just want to make a yes man that was like, this thing's super hyper intelligent. Now I just need it to agree with me on everything. So then I look super smart and intelligent.
Mm. But see, Biggles, that's why the word generative has to be in front of it, because people don't understand the difference and there's a lack of education, which through no small part, like, good job, tech companies. You really did a good job making sure everyone was misinformed and now have this lovely fucking buzzword that just sets people off at any given moment in time. The phrase is generative AI.
Hold on. What did Titan say really quick?
That is the issue.
Scale. Where's the thing on scale? Gallons of water per prompt? No. Not gallons. Tons. The people who are saying it takes gallons in a closed loop system, yeah. If you're running on like a single PC.
And here's my thing, even if it didn't have any environmental impact, which it does, it's still stolen bullshit. It is all stolen. All of it. ChatGPT has never had an original thought in its life, ever, in the time span of existence. And not only that, but it gives you incorrect information. There are now lawsuits against various hospitals across the country, and there are even people trying to make AI lawyers. There are insurance companies have just got caught using bullshit GPT-esque generative AI nonsense to determine whether or not an insurance claim was valid. This does not need to exist. It doesn't need to exist. It never needed to exist. It is.
They're using it in the worst ways possible instead of thinking of it more on a larger scope.
I'm so sorry I got angry there.
No, you are good. This is a perfectly good topic to get angry at because it is stupid. Well, they started on the worst foot imaginable with the exact opposite of what a tool like this should have been used for.
Well, Fagoth, I am mad because this is just, it's fundamentally harmful. It is detrimental to the human body as a whole. It's just not something that needs to be. Anybody can draw, anybody can learn. it's not even an accessibility issue. The issue is within the systems itself that we currently use. And it's all about fucking money. And now I will step off my soapbox. I am so sorry for yelling. That was highly inappropriate of me.
You're good. My brain, I'm still over here. I'm just always like, I'm still waiting on that automation that they warned me about so much in 2000 and moving forward. You're going to automate all the gerbs. Okay. When's that happening? Are you going to do it soon? Are we gonna automate all the menial jobs and stuff that humans just break their back upon and suffer through the entirety of their life?
No.
Can we let machines learn it and give people a basic universal income and let them enjoy the world that they exist in and their life?
No, Marin, because there are some people that want there to be slavery. And that's where it gets even more fucked up.
I saw a video a couple days ago that was somebody that was like, they put it in a really good way. It's basically, the rich get to live in their own little haven the entirety of their little life, and they have convinced you that you will get yours only after death.
The rich have convinced you that your paradise is in heaven while they have built theirs on earth.
How much they donate, Izzy? How much they donate? Did they pay the copyright price of the Jonkler?
The Jonkler!
Have we paid the licensing for the Jonkler? Oops, Ren!
Can't believe it. I can't believe Ren bought the Jonkler.
Thank you, Ren. Thank you for paying the Jonkler licensing fees. We now have the Jonkler for the rest of the stream.
You will be rewarded in Vangala.
Correct.
I am the glob gob gab galab.
I am the yeast of thought and mind.
You remembered.
What is that?
There's
is this supposed to be Valhalla?
I like that Ren included the
jumbled Valhalla. Van Hagla.
Van Hagla? Is that like where all the hot hags go when they die? Is that where I'm gonna go when I die? Do I have to die?
The poor to make them more money and dehumanize everyone the rich deems bad? Exactly. It's for hags. I like that. Fun bit of biblical facts where you will only be rich in heaven. That one time in the Bible invites humankind to test him is basically try to out generous me. He calls us to be generous with what we have instead of hoarding it. Yeah.
It is easier for the camel to pass through an eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God.
There was a bit I saw. I think it was from an old maybe it was Saturday Night Live, or maybe it was one of those skit TV shows from somewhere, but I think it was British. But it was, I have finally done it. After millions of dollars invested, I have made the world's largest needle and the world's smallest camel. It's just it's like, oh my God.
You've missing the point. I
have gray hair. Can I be considered a hag too? No, Rin, because you keep dyeing your hair. You haven't accepted your hagness.
You have to allow the gray to become one full streak.
Rich people are losing their LA mansion. I'm like, oh no. Anyway, back to Satisfactory. Yep.
Oh, did you not see that real estate mogul guy that got BTFO'd because he was trying to
ask
hire
for private firefighters?
Yeah, and that's not at all how.
You know, those actually do exist. And the reason he thought of it was because I know it was Kim Kardashian and somebody else about a year or 2 years ago when they had another wildfire admitted to hiring, quote, private firefighters to essentially keep their lawns wet and stuff so the fire wouldn't encroach on their property.
Was it private firefighters or was it prison labor designed to look like private firefighters?
That's a good question. There was no pictures.
Exactly.
It's not cool looking enough for me to keep it gray. Do it, coward. Listen, salt and pepper is cute.
You gotta grow it. You gotta let it happen. You can't be afraid of that awkward phase. You gotta let the awkward phase happen so you can be hot.
I have to go through the awkward phase again now that I've cut my hair off. I thought about that halfway through the haircut and was like, oh no.
Yeah, but
I even said it out loud to my fucking stylist, and she started laughing so hard. It's like, oh no, I have to go through that awkward phase again. And she just started snickering to herself.
Yes, but you also get to see now what your hair looks like at different lengths so you can choose the best one for you. That's why
For
big
reference,
chops are
men with
like
facial hair. Correct.
so true.
No pictures. Definitely prison labor. Almost certainly. Wait, they
Bing
also
bong.
passed a law this year. Didn't California pass a law that like mandated prison labor for wildfires?
I think it was to pass keeping it. Was like keeping, like allowing them to continue to use prison labor, slavery, for firefighting purposes.
Putting my trust in a $20 haircut? No, I actually go to a decent place.
Yeah. Marin knows so much about hair care. She's actually helped me out with my hair a lot. It's doing a lot better now. I still need to go get that trim, but I gotta save up some monies.
Yeah, sometimes even just a trim, like the haircut that I got where she basically took all of my hair versus a trim is still the same price.
Yeah, exactly, Midas. They killed the bill that would have made it illegal.
God, I remember seeing all the arguments for it, and it was basically just a bunch of rich assholes being like, but then my properties are going to burn down.
Damn, bestie. Sounds like a climate change problem.
Sounds like you should do something on a larger scale than like forcing prisoners to do labor for free.
Mm-hmm.
All right. More on this. Also, this is Fallout London, isn't it? That's a mod.
Fallout London total.
Looks like it.
For a game studio that's supposedly so mod friendly, Bethesda's updates.
Bethesda's a punk bitch of a game studio.
It's almost like they don't really have a good reason to continue using the creation
After the
engine
76
other than their heels
problem,
are dug in
I
really
just
far.
stopped.
Almost like all of
I haven't enjoyed a Bethesda game ever, probably.
That they're made to be
like long enough to play more than just like a few hours.
You just don't want to change. That's it. You could change and it would be better. I promise you. But you know what? Forget that. Let's talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro launch. The Pro's new features were supposed to make games run better and look better.
Oh yeah, you don't know about the PS5 Pro?
Saying that doesn't happen.
I probably just haven't heard of it in a while. Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, remember it was like $700 for no reason?
Oh yeah.
Hill 2, they got hit the hardest, but they were hard.
I don't know. The Alan Wake 2 was a pretty fucking good game.
Came from the PS5
I have not done an Alan Wake yet.
Which is
I highly recommend doing an Alan Wake because to this day I think Alan Wake 2 is the greatest written game ever.
Just not ready for prime time.
Sai keeps trying to get me to do an Alan Wake.
Which is really annoying for most games because you couldn't.
I think I'd enjoy it.
The entire
I need
update
that time to write my video essays.
Confusing. It was hard to tell what games,
I need to find more things to talk about.
With the PS5
It's time to talk about
and
Cumberbund.
And which ones didn't.
Cumberbund.
Some would change the graphic settings to include
The
PS5
heinous
Pros.
monstrosity
Some
that
of them
is
would
the
appear exactly
Cumberbund.
the same, but
Hey
actually
guys,
have
tie this
features.
ribbon around
Whole
your
thing was a
waist
mess.
to make yourself
One
look
thing that was supposed to make
fancy.
the
I need to find the
DIY
clip for you where it's that guy like yelling at a dude who's
was,
taken somebody
upscaling stuff
hostage at a
was
party,
essential
and he's
pillar to the
like,
marketing
oh my god, are you wearing a? Oh my god, it's upside down. What the fuck are you doing?
But some of them look worse.
Yeah, cummerbunds can be upside down.
Well, $700.
God.
This was worth it. It's fine.
I wore a cummerbund to my senior prom
for all intents and purposes
because I wore a top hat and tails.
Did it matter?
Okay, but that's cute.
That top hat was in every single prom picture. If I wasn't wearing it, somebody in the picture was wearing
It
it.
should be flawless.
Yeah, because it's a top hat. Top hats are baller.
If you already had a PlayStation 5, that's already a serious issue. But honestly, like,
But with
none
tails,
of what it does is $700
that's sexy.
worth at least.
Listen,
yet.
there's only one game that they could ever release that would convince me to buy a new PlayStation of any kind whatsoever, and that would be a Detroit sequel. Hear that, Sony?
And you know,
I will shill out
let's just go
$700
ahead
for one
and
game.
Talk about the Grand
Detroit
Make it
Theft
happen.
take Marin's
and
money.
how I like
Make it
playing
happen.
them on the Steam Deck and how I don't like logging into them on the Steam Deck. It's not just the Grand Theft Auto games, though. It's probably most annoying when you buy a brand new game that you're excited
I don't
to
often
play 'cause
use,
you've never played it before.
like controller
And you get it
settings
installed,
for
you get
most
yourself
games that I play,
settled
so I
in,
always
and
struggle
you
to be
have
like,
to launch some
why would
stupid
somebody buy a
launcher
Steam
that makes
Deck?
you log in, which
I
a
don't
lot of the
know.
time makes you start.
I
a
mean,
new
I
account,
use
which
controllers
is
because it's
super
easier on my
annoying.
hands than
I
keyboard
do not
is.
want to put an
That makes
email and a
sense.
password
But it's
in
also like if I'm playing shooters, I will use anything but a controller.
Especially if it's on PC and I have used Google's
Hey, Rainbow
automatic
Six.
login to log into the thing. It's a rare problem, but man, is it an infuriating one. It's just a totally unnecessary barrier.
Require a PSN account. God damn it, Sony!
It's homework.
I remember
You gotta-
when
you
that
gotta-
happened.
Rewarded by
Got
being
over
able to play
fucking-
the
what was
game,
it?
Which you would have been
Prom
able to play
PTSD?
if you didn't
No.
have any homework. It's even worse for the launchers for games that you don't play all the time.
Oh, yes,
In fact,
Skull and
A lot
Bones.
of the time,
Didn't
guess
that
what?
basic?
I won't
Wasn't that
turn on a
basically
game
kind of
because
DOA?
they
Like,
have
didn't
a
people play
launcher
that for like
Oh,
2
yes.
days and then
use. Why?
stop?
Because
Yep. The only people I know that still continue to play it are pirate theme streamers.
I have to log in.
Like Burt
Well, I mean,
Black.
that makes.
Because it's
I mean,
been
that makes
long enough
sense.
since the last time I played
They're
that it
pirates.
dropped the login. That's not even counting the many issues that having.
They've also tried to give me a copy of that
They can
too.
cause startup issues. They can make games harder to mod. They're generally just obtrusive and unnecessary. A lot of the time, and I don't have any games I'm currently playing that do this, but I can remember several over the past few years. A lot of the time, launcher issues could be the
Hit
culprit
burp.
in crashing the game. I don't remember which games right now.
Oh yeah,
are
who?
doing that.
Hold on, who was I talking to recently that was telling me? I think it was Zoa. I think Zoa was telling me about a game that she'd been trying to play, where they got rid of the launcher, but the launch sequence still tries to find the launcher, so you just can't open the game anymore. It just infinitely cycles trying to search for the launcher or trying to open the launcher, and it never finds it because they got rid of it. But they didn't change the code so that it doesn't try to open the launcher. So you can never open the game.
What? So it's just a useless game.
Yep. I can't remember what game it was, but she was telling me. Son of a bitch. My breath smells like poopy. Excuse you.
That's
It's not poopy, it's carrion. Just because I like eating flesh doesn't mean nothing. Bethesda bullshit, I would not doubt it. Hi, Breath, how are you doing?
That's why you have an after dinner mint, dear.
Skull and Bones was originally supposed to be the multiplayer part of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, then Ubisoft was Ubisoft and ruined it. It kind of was, and that's the thing was, I've followed the development cycle for it, and I've gone like through a whole deep dive on it. That game changed so many times during development. It went from being like a story-based pirate game to being a matchmaking combat multiplayer game only, back to being like an exploratory game. And then by the time it made it back to the launch, when they wanted, was it? But that was it Bethesda? No, sorry, Ubisoft wanted to drop it, but the Singapore government was like, no. We've invested in this. We're going to invest more. Finish the game. Because it was developed by Ubisoft Singapore.
I see.
Oh no, it's the Lord of the South. Oh no.
Oh. Why?
The
Oh
Lord
no.
of the South is here. Everybody act natural. These ribs are delicious.
I like barbecue.
Barbecue is wonderful.
Biscuits.
I
Gravy.
really like being outside
Chicken
and
fried.
football. Roll Tide.
Sweet tea.
With extra sugar. Extra sugar, darling. Welcome in, though, Lord. How was your
Now I
stream?
want
How was Final
sweet
Fantasy
tea.
16?
Enjoy the show.
Hope you have a great stream. If you already have to scatter for
Aw.
some post-stream stuff, I totally understand. I hope you have a good day.
What a good sport.
Oh, sorry. Sometimes you gotta have fun with the names, okay? Sam, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Give me ribs? No, they're mine. You can't have them.
I have some spare ones. Get it? Spare ribs.
Spare ribs. Now, I was just trying to figure out how to make a Marilyn Manson joke about removing your ribs. It's finally time. Faye's been single so long, she's now just gonna eat herself out.
Joke's on you. I'm already flexible enough for that shit.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you for the shout out. Of course. They even read the sea shanties and Skull and Bones. They sound like half-assed mixed, and some even sound like AI. I am not surprised.
Aww.
Are your ribs pre-smoked? That is not the same kind of smoke. Enjoy your supper.
That baked-in nicotine flavor.
I can scratch my back at the gym, so I'm gonna find a pointy corner.
Ah, yes, the bear method.
Listen, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I guess Rin's just too jacked. He can't reach his back anymore. Might need to do some more stretches, Rin.
You gotta get flexible.
Gotta be able to get all those itchy little corners. Otherwise, I'm gonna start putting stickers on your back like I've been doing to Kono. I'm up to 6.
Stickers? 6?
Yeah.
Kono, stretching is not for losers. You got to be limber, hun. It's
Kono wants to be
important.
chunky and just armbar everybody in a fight, so it's fine. It's fine. He's dex built. Okay, not dex built. He's strength built. I'm dex built. Even though my cardio fucking sucks. I hate cardio.
Oh, once you get here, you're going to be doing nothing but cardio. You and I are going to work out together, and you're going to get sick of me.
Good. Less dex means more space for stickers. Kono now has a sticker zone in the shape of a diamond on his back.
Can I give you a pretty star sticker, Kono?
I've been putting fruit stickers. I'm up to 2 Chiquitas, 3 Dole, and 1 brand that I can't read because it's in Spanish.
Are they all bananas?
No, some of them are apples. One's a tangerine. Chiquita ones are bananas.
Ah. Okay, Kono, I will give you a star sticker.
It turns back, here's where you keep my Malin sticker collection. It's just a whole bunch of the crime brulee stickers.
Mm-hmm. Gazes at my undefined back through like a couple mirrors, and this is where I'd place my sticker collection if I had one.
It's okay, we'll tone that into shape.
In some, and ooh,
it won't take much.
It's the most annoying thing you can
At least
imagine.
I don't think so.
Extra launchers are just stupid. They're
I
stupid.
mean, you've seen me, you know better.
Sometimes, let's say they
Yeah.
work exactly as they should, and they actually don't crash the game or give you startup issues or whatever. Sometimes they're just system hogs. You're trying to play a game, and the launcher's like, piggy, piggy, piggy.
Oinks.
Can't you see? You're hogging all the resources on my PC. Yes, I just thought of that. On top of being a very capable voice actor and a brilliant musician. All this crap needs to go, though. I shouldn't be making up
Oh my God.
Biggie Smalls parodies to talk
And there's an
about
Adora
system
handprint on my
hogs.
back.
That's not something that should ever
What's the
happen.
handprint
But
made
here
out
we
of?
are. And I will say,
What's the handprint made out of?
Oh, dear.
2K removed their reviled launcher.
Oh, that's what it was. I think it was
They all
2K.
just launch directly now. except
No,
for
they
the
don't.
Rockstar ones. Nope.
No,
I
they
put
don't.
Grand Theft Auto 3 on my Steam Deck, and
I think that was the game.
Is he?
I was like, I want to play Grand Theft Auto 3, and then it took me a week to do it because I just didn't want to log into the damn thing.
Please do
And I was
not
finally
create
like,
AIs
"There's a
of
reason I wanna
streamers."
play this, I'm just gonna log in
Wait, was
for it."
somebody hinting at that?
And number 5, I
Ren.
think the gaming industry.
Did you see my
a
plan
lot
of creating
like the
AI
movie
Kono streamer?
industry specifically. I mean, developers are just taking less risks. And it's not necessarily
I
because
must
developers are making those choices.
discourage
either. The budgets
even the
for
joke
video
of that
games
being
are
made.
set
It's
by,
not
the buttholes
nice.
That, you
Yeah,
know,
that's why I
control
don't much
money.
care for
So don't
Neuro.
think that I'm just
I don't give a
saying
shit about
every
Neuro.
dev is
I've
just,
seen so many
"No,
people
we're
lose
not
their
creative
shit.
anymore." That's
Lose
not
their
what I'm
shit
saying
over
at all.
Neuro
But
and
games
fucking
are-
what's his
are they
name?
kinda
Vidal?
starting to run
Vidal?
together 'cause they're
And I'm just like,
AAA means, you know, a specific
cares?
range of game at this point. Basically, like Uncharted to Dark Souls. If it's AAA,
Yes,
you,
Izzy,
Ren.
I know you
somewhere
judge people
in
extremely
there.
harshly,
Aesthetically,
but
it might be very
okay.
different
Izzy,
than
judge them
Uncharted
harsher.
to Dark
No.
Souls. Like Resident Evil is something aesthetically very different, but I mean, obviously, control-wise, there's things that it owes to both of those games. Doesn't feel like playing both of those games, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. And
I'm not talking
I
Neuro
mentioned
and
this at
Vidal,
the
I
top of
am.
This point, it's because of the budgets.
The
more
entire
money
stream
that
is
you
AI?
invest into a
Do you mean
video game,
like the
safer
Pokemon
they
ones?
want that investment to be.
That are basically
And
just
therefore,
raids for
the
people to
guardrails
join and
go up.
farm?
You can't do this, this, and this. Please just do this. Just make me a
Judgment
hit
must
this
be
game? Is
passed.
this Tomb Raider?
that one. I actually
Yeah, that's
forgot
Tomb Raider.
One more thing. Rather than a range in between two games, Dark Souls and Uncharted.
Judgment
maybe
must
it
be
should be
passed. You'll think me when you
Live
need me?
service is the
I'm just
other
imagining
point
Izzy
on
sitting
that
in like a
triangle.
big
And
chair,
basically
like a throne,
puts
be like,
any game on a point
I will pass my
somewhere
judgment.
inside of that
And
Izzy,
you will
Izzy
thank
sitting in
me
a throne.
for it.
I am the deadpan comedy
And that's
genius.
because games cost
No one else.
millions of dollars to make now. But,
Only
you
I
know,
can be
So many of those are now failing. Maybe
Izzy
they
is
might
funny,
start
though.
God, every time I keep seeing, every time they put he shows the fucking Concord clip, I get depressed.
And then if you got something in double A,
'Cause it looks
that
so
is
gross.
gonna get awesome. Maybe bump up the budget, bump it up to AAA somewhere in the middle of the development process. Maybe
Somewhere in the middle of the
this is
development
wishful thinking.
process.
That's not going to happen. At number 4 is.
Well, no,
adding
it is.
DRM
I think we're pretty much
after
done with
they
this. We've
come
probably
out.
gotten
This
through
kind of
everything. Everything else
nonsense
is going to be the same shit.
freaking
Why
stop.
would you
There's not
post
like a
DRM a
nuanced way for
game?
this to be okay. I don't want to
What?
live in this world where
Apparently, number 4 is adding DRM after a game's release.
Now, I don't want to say it's necessarily a completely common.
I'm brain farting.
practice,
What's
but it's been
DRM?
popping up enough these past
Let
few
me-
years, like when Bethesda.
I know what it is, but I don't know what it is. So let me make sure I tell you. Digital rights management.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's an access thing.
Yeah. This is my baby.
snuck de nouveau
It's
into
Ghostwire
Ghostwire
Tokyo.
a year after it came
What?
out. A year. Or more recently, like when Capcom
Yeah,
inserted
anti-theft,
the
basically.
Enigma Protector into a bunch of their old games. I guess because of some new anti-modding corporate policy. That's mostly what the
Anti-modding
Protector
corporate
did.
policy,
Messed
my
up
ass.
mods
Just
people
telling me you don't want
usually
people to be
use.
creative with your
Basically no
franchises.
reason. It didn't just kill
No,
mods.
say you
you're only
hate
allowed to
fun.
enjoy
The
franchises the way we
games
tell
run
you to.
A lot worse. Because
Keep
as
buying
you
our
know, that's
games.
a fairly common thing with
We
DRM.
hate fun.
So basically, they're just encouraging people to pirate their older games because the DRM
Yar
they're
har
inserting
fiddle-dee-dee.
makes for a worse experience in literally every way. Capcom did eventually remove Enigma, but they seem
see,
to
there it
see
is.
this as only a temporary setup, vowing to bring it back once they solve the performance issues.
You can't play your games unless you purchased it through
Spoilers, they're not
legitimate
going to
means,
solve the
meaning give me your
performance
money.
issues
Exactly.
unless they can, develop some way for a computer to replicate its own hardware so that it has more resources. Like
I like that he
unless
keeps
Capcom
showing
is just really
Resident Evil
adamant about
5.
stopping modding. That's probably the end of it. I doubt they're going to put the work in to actually fix the performance anytime soon.
Can't you see it's funny? I mean, in kind of a pseudo kind of way.
Resource drain to a finite situation.
A very
of
minute
resources.
sort of way.
I mean,
Was it
it's stupid.
hilarious?
I hate
No.
it. It just really sucks.
Is it like
how,
that little, like,
at
hee-hee?
any time,
Yeah.
A game developer
Yes.
can decide, I want
It's like-
DRM
It
in my
got
game now.
half a
They won't
nose
tell
exhale.
anybody, they won't give notice. Just one day.
I still get. What is this game?
At
I
number
have
3,
no
Oh, that was
idea.
Suicide Squad.
Microtransactions,
Suicide Squad
Oh.
kills Justice League. I was like,
The
I thought it was like
game-
This would not be
Crackdown
a Falcon
earlier.
The
Bright
game
list
that they
if we
keep
didn't
trying to
go
give
there.
away for
The
like
cost of
nothing.
microtransactions.
Yes,
And nobody
Izzy,
wants
I
it.
know.
Out
I
of
know you
control in
function on a
2024.
scale of.
We're
The only thing
past
that's
the
funny are
point.
things that hit a
All
9 or a
prices
10, but I
micro.
function on a 4 and
Everywhere you look,
above.
There's seemingly a new microtransaction controversy.
I have
and it's
several
mostly
leagues of laughter.
surrounding the
You've
price.
heard most of them.
$30 skins and Apex Legends.
You know
yeah,
when
some
something is hilarious to me. You
microtransactions.
know when something is just hee hoo.
Black Ops 6 Battle Pass in a Battle Pass, like it's Battle Passception here. I know somebody else has made that
51
joke.
kills is Penny?
Definitely
Jesus,
am not
how
the
many
first.
mines did they
There's
run
no
into?
freaking way. But you get what I'm getting at, though. The
A lot.
prices are out of control. And the thing is,
Correct.
people are going to keep buying them because that's how it works. They don't make stuff based on some kind of a demand because if they ask the players, hey, you want more microtransactions that are more expensive? I don't
Oh,
think
ad
any
break. That's
person
my
would
bad.
say
Yeah, no, we're in ads, dear. I was just about to say.
I saw it at the top for a second, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I can't believe this.
But I'm also getting a little hungry. Faye, can I go have some cured meats?
Go eat your cured meat. I'll mind the children.
Okay, thank you. I'll give them music.
I'll mind the chat. Yes, give them some music and some words. Go have delicious meats. I only died twice. Oh! Can you have candy? Ren, have you been good? If you've been good, you can have candy, Ren. Did you do your work today? Did you drink some water? Did you sleep well? If so, you can have one candy. You can go get it from the job. You're muted, Izzy.
I know, I'm on my phone.
Oh, okay.
Don't tell Marin.
Okay,
I'm on my phone. I'm under the covers.
okay. You're being sneaky.
Can we just talk about how unfunny that joke was?
I mean, I found it lightly amusing, considering the rest of the video is kind of dry.
How do you not feel like it's just a white dude complaining about video games? I feel like I see that on Twitter everywhere.
I mean, that's what they're good at, Izzy. That's what they.
It's all they
That's, it's all they know. We can't take it away from them.
Comedy gold.
Cavity gold. Oh, they're doing really good at words again.
Are you guys
Ren.
winning?
Yeah.
They're gonna win.
Yeah, they just knew one more. Ren can have candy, Dill, but only if Ren was good today.
Was Ren good today?
And by candy, I mean protein shake. The gains never stop. Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. Get your gains.
Do you want peanut butter?
I'd love peanut butter.
No, not you, Ren.
Oh. We're not sacrificing me for water, Ganon. I can't even be sacrificed. I know, I've tried.
Have you?
Yes.
What have you tried sacrificing?
Myself.
And?
I came back.
Oh. I'm sorry.
my chosen deity didn't want me.
I understand.
Said nah, and it threw me back like a fish.
They said, guess what? You're reborn, bitch. Good luck.
Live again, motherfucker. Aha!
Wouldn't it be really funny if we just said, haha, too bad?
And then now that's comedy.
That's funny.
Ginger, I'm so sorry that the restroom is not a restroom. And that you are currently fighting for your life. The big top is not on fire. The carnival is not on fire.
It's not?
It's not. They keep trying to set it on fire, but it never works.
Why do you
I
guys
didn't.
keep trying to burn down something that has, like, flame retardant, like, sheets or whatever?
They seem to just want chaos, and chaos is fire. And there's a parade. I must compulsory wiggle. There we go. I don't want to burn for the sake of burning. That's a waste of flame.
I would approve of your terrible humor. Is it good terrible humor or is it bad terrible humor?
Joke's on you. My smoke point melting points are ridiculously high. And I'm technically not fireproof.
Okay, if you're the only one that says you're funny, that's not a good sign.
Oh no. I think it's important to find yourself funny.
It is important to find yourself funny, but if you're the only person who says you're funny, that's a problem. Or if you say you're funny, you know?
Well, I think I'm hilarious.
See? That's a problem.
Good. I'm gonna be the biggest problem this world's ever seen. I spent most of my time apologizing for my existence. I'm not doing it anymore.
Wait, what?
Hmm?
So your world, like, I'm gonna destroy the world is to just be not funny?
Yeah. I'm gonna be so annoyingly unfunny that the world explodes.
That's your your the hill?
This is the hill I will build my house upon, live a full life inside of with my wife and children, and then quietly pass away in my sleep on. Yes!
That's crazy.
That's wild.
Alright, Ren, tell me a joke. And I'll let you know if it's funny.
I feel like Ren works hard enough, Ganon. Come now.
You make memes? Show me a good meme.
He did just ask if he could send you one. You were doing so good, chat. Keep it up. Ren doesn't work. Ren works plenty. Rifling
It's
through the
me,
best.
the joke police.
The joke police? Isabella joke police ooze.
Exactly.
The comedy cop. You gonna arrest us when we're not funny?
Exactly.
I can't believe you're gonna throw us in the slammer for subpar comedy.
People have been arrested for less
Okay, but what kind of punishment would you put us under? Like, do we have to go?
spankings.
Oh. I don't
See, I
think.
have to have people be bad at telling jokes so that way my jokes are better.
But wait, if you get rid of all the people who can tell bad jokes, doesn't that
It's all a
defeat?
ruse.
This is a defeat that I'm confused.
Izzy's being the comedy police again.
You don't understand.
Hello, Marin.
This is the system that I'm running.
Okay.
Oh shit, Marin's back. And Marin's muted.
No, I'm not.
No.
I was yelling at you for the last minutes.
What?
The second I came back, I was like, Izzy!
I can't hear you. Is Marin still muted?
Why are you gaslighting? Marin, you're not muted. Izzy's being a shit.
Oh, I'm well aware.
Yes, not one. I really
I
don't
love you
think
both so much.
In terms of popularity, these things are not high.
Not
Also, here's the
Apex!
problem. It's incentive. They're
Marin
always
Gannon
going to
keeps
have
trying to
some kind of
sacrifice
incentive
me
to
for
buy something
water.
in these games. You get more.
Okay, I'm gonna go because
You're
Marin's
missing out,
back.
FOMO. You look cooler if you buy
Go
the skin.
take your
And hey,
nap.
if you buy the
Go
$30
eat,
skin,
darling.
you're really
I need to
proving
go
that
take
you
my
love
nap because
Apex
I'm so
Legends
old.
more than
Is that why you have
just,
white hair?
$5 skin.
See, Dill's
Ugh.
Dill's
They set
there
up
with
a pretty
me.
manipulative economy.
You hear Marin? Listen,
Marin?
Dill, you're deaf. There's a
Because,
difference.
I mean, it
What
makes
the fuck?
sense
Oh,
to
this
at
is
least
Star Wars
some
Battlefront.
extent within the
Marin
logic
and
of these
Izzy are the
games.
voices that live in
The
my head,
normalization
and
of this
Izzy needs
crap.
to take
I mean,
her nap.
Live service games have done it. There's always an outcry because
Okay,
nobody
but which
actually wants
voice
them, but
does
at the same
which?
time, they know.
Does
We're both
what?
devils on her shoulders.
Oh yeah, there's no angels in here. You just
I feel
alternate.
like I'm an angel.
Izzy?
You are more likely to guide me towards a logical conclusion. I feel like Marin will just tell me, crash out, you don't need to be the bigger person anymore.
It's the year of our Lord 2025. I am no longer gonna be the bigger person. I'm gonna be the biggest
right, 'cause
bitch.
you're short.
I'm the bigger person in the literal sense.
Bam.
I'm 9 feet tall, and that's all I need to do. I love my voices inside of my head. One of them's my wife. And the other one is my best friend.
I'm just watching Izzy's PNG do the little shimmy.
I like the shimmy. Everyone stare at Izzy. Go. What do you mean?
What do you mean you left? No, the fuck you didn't. You're right there.
You're still in here.
You're
I
still
see
in the
you.
call. You didn't just did you just close the app on your phone? Did you think that actually disconnects you? Well, all right, guys. I guess we're gonna play with the husk of Izzy.
No, not Izzy's husk.
All right, there we go.
Izzy, I love you.
Goes to the machine. I
Izzy is
can
now.
see Izzy as the lieutenant.
Izzy is now a mecha piloting Marin.
No, this would only be like Ratatouille
Oh, okay. It's a Ratatouille
situation.
situation.
She's just gonna pull my hair.
what you do with that. It's fragile.
It's fragile.
It's fragile.
Anyway.
Know how to set it up.
Anyway.
Let's get
Die
through
again.
whatever this nightmare is. We've been watching this one video
And
for
there really
twice
isn't
as long as
much
its
of a
runtime.
solution. I could tell
I want to get
everybody
to
Well, yeah,
I
you
want
went
to
to
get
go
to the
get food.
Godzilla shit.
not buy these things.
And do
But there's
laundry.
enough people who
The
play
spooky
games
Godzilla
that
video.
have the money to waste on this shit that makes
Money.
it enviable in some way. And if it doesn't automatically make
Enviable?
it so, they do everything that's possible to make it
Enviable.
so. And
Wait, that
if we're
arcade looks
clear,
really
I don't
familiar.
even vote with your wallet. I voted with
That looks
my
like the one
wallet
that I
so
used to
many
go to as a
times
kid.
in my life, and the
It doesn't
positions
exist
I've
anymore.
held
Now
are
it's a
not
fucking
the popular
protein
ones.
shop
But you
for
can't
gym
get
bros.
everybody to vote with their wallet because some
Oh,
people's
there she goes.
wallets are so fat. This stuff doesn't
No,
look
my
like
hat.
a problem. And you know
I miss
what
her.
you felt when
Miss my
someone
hat.
showed up at high school with the new Nikes or whatever. You thought, I don't hate the new Nikes.
You monster.
Good, actually.
She bamboozled
It's gone,
us.
Man. They know how to weaponize it against us. And a lot of people don't have the money to be playing with it, but enough people do that they get sucked in. Yeah,
Is that
Have
$20 here, $20 there, and then suddenly you've spent your college tuition.
It'll go away.
The power of
And
FOMO
number
is one
two
hell of a
is
drug.
shutting down critically
Thanks,
acclaimed
Fortnite.
developers and studios. Is this really where we're at now? Where a studio can
Got
make a
your ass,
universally
goddammit.
praised game and get shut down the same
We
year?
got
That's what happened to the team behind
We've
the
been
Prince of
bamboozled.
Persia: The Lost Crown. A game
How
that was
Mary
never gonna be a
cook the
runaway
ratatouille
hit,
now?
but for what
Nah, I
it
make
was
spaghetti in this
critically
house.
acclaimed, and people who bought it, you know,
spaghetti.
bought it. They liked it too. It's not like
It's
people hate
meat
this
sauce
game.
spaghetti.
People really liked it, but it also proved that there was life left in the Prince of Persia franchise. It's a good game, so of course Ubisoft staked everything on it.
I just
They
can't
had
get into playing
impossibly high
side-scrollers
sales
much anymore.
expectations. There's no way for Prince of Persia: The Lost
I only like
Crown to meet the
side-scrollers when they're pixel
expectations
art
they gave
games.
it. And so the
It
team
feels
was
like something I need to be
disbanded
playing on like a
before even
handheld
giving it
console.
chance to make a sequel. Like that's the specific reason why it didn't.
I sent
go
the meme.
gangbusters,
What have you
by the
done?
way. With something like that, where it's a
Oh,
dormant
to Izzy.
series,
Ren was
people aren't
sending Izzy a
necessarily prone
meme
to trust due to the
so that
mishandling of
Izzy
it
may
over time.
cast
You gotta
judgment
do,
upon
like,
Ren's
one game
humor.
as a proof of concept, and if it does decently, the second game is where you go in.
From her
That's
ooze
where
throne.
the marketing money goes. But I mean, Ubisoft clearly has no sense. And I mean, both SENSE and CENTS.
Oh my god,
I mean, I
Coder
don't
sent me
mean
the
to just,
fucking
like,
meme.
talk
That's
about this
loving your
game
wife is not a
specifically, 'cause there's
personality.
certain
Okay, tell that to my
games.
wife,
I mean,
who I love.
Let's talk about that. Not just critically acclaimed,
true.
but a legitimate hit.
I
that
do love my
most
wife.
likely made a shitload of money for Microsoft. They're
She
like,
lets me take up
shut 'em
space
down.
on her
I don't know how
screen.
you have a hit and it's not a big enough of a hit. Like, there's no way that wasn't a profitable game.
There's
It did
always
go
a face-sized
gangbusters
hole on
for
my
what
stream.
it is. Its budget could not have
Just
been that
there.
high. I don't know.
I should take the PNG and just make
I'm
like a
not so
solid color. They
naive
could just have it here for
that
shits
some
and giggles instead of now for whenever,
But it seems like
whenever
success
it's
is
like, hey
enough.
Faye, do you want to come join? I just like turn that on.
Yes.
Successful enough and one
You
that was
absolutely have
actually
my
a legitimate
permission,
hit.
please.
And
This
both
is-
the studios got
this is
shut
my
down.
hole. It was made for me.
Fortunately, Nintendo GameWorks got resurrected, but that didn't happen to the
This is
Lost
where the
Crown
fade
guys.
goes.
It just sucks how quickly and suddenly
I need
they
more
lost
Tango
it.
works in
I
my
hope things
life.
start to stabilize this upcoming year. The industry
I need
can't be
Tango
this
Works and I need
volatile
Arcane
forever.
back. I
At
need
some
more
point, the
Dishonored, okay?
post-pandemic hangover has got
More.
to end. Does
More.
drinking a cup
More.
full of eggs get rid of hangovers? Does that work? I've heard that works. Can we do that?
What is this joke?
And finally, at number one,
I don't know, I missed it. Something about hangovers?
See coming.
And
At a
eggs.
certain point, gaming got so big it stopped being the playground of creators, and it became big business. The paradox of the entertainment industry is that it's
Correct.
run by businessmen who, by their very nature, don't know
Yep.
anything about art. They're boring losers.
Are those-
Some of them have a creative bone in
Oh,
their
those are
body, but not
Monopoly
many.
money, and by
when
that
they
I mean
do, their
Canadian.
job is essentially to contradict that bone.
Yeah, but they
any
have
sense
scratch and
they
the sniff
can.
stickers
All
on
right,
their
so
money that
anybody
smell
with
like
two
maple
eyes
syrup.
could understand that Concord wasn't going to be
Oh, yeah.
the financial success it needed to be. I don't
I
understand
mean,
how
you
this
should have
shit
known
got
that from the
greenlit,
fucking
how it got
trailer
the
launch
budget
at
that
the
it got,
Game
and
Awards
then
the
it
other
got
year.
A bunch of money sunk into marketing, like that was going to just like magically make it so that people wanted to play.
Okay,
that.
what's this
I'm
dude's
not
gun?
saying there
It's
was
a
nothing appealing about this game, but
vacuum
it was the
that
same
doesn't
damn
seem to
game,
do a whole lot.
again, with a generally less good coat of paint, and that's honestly kind of generous. I don't want to get into it. I do want an answer.
Oh my God.
No one in the entire creative process.
Those shots did
will just
so
come
little
out and
damage.
admit
Oh my
that this
God.
thing was a big
The
fat
time to
circus
kill in this
snake.
game looks
Skull and
terrible.
Bones, kind of has an excuse for it. Ubisoft made a deal with the
Yeah, that was
government in
Concord.
Singapore to release a game come hell or high water, and that explains why that game came out rather than
I mean,
being canceled. Although if it had been canceled, we
there's
probably
something
would've
funny
ignored it,
about a
'cause it
governing
sounded
body
cool, but,
getting
either
involved
way,
in the
there
release
was
of a
no
game.
excuse for X to fight.
Yep.
What's the deal there? Just
That's
this
usually a red flag.
soulless corporate
Yeah,
product.
no,
It
it's a
makes Call
red
of Duty
flag.
look
It's
unique and
a funny
interesting.
red
I'm not
flag,
saying
but it's a
Call
red
of Duty's
flag all
bad.
the
Don't
same.
jump my ass. I like me a Call of Duty campaign. but,
There being a
it's
comedic
also
element
Call
to
of
it
Duty.
does
You
not
know Call of
remove
Duty
the
is.
red
It's not
nature
like
of the
people play
flag.
it 'cause it's the most original, innovative series that's ever been made. It's Call of Duty. It's actually kind of old school at this point. That's not
Christ.
an insult,
That was
but
apparently
I mean,
this
it's
year
not. And then,
Tencent
of course,
got
with Suicide
called
Squad,
a
don't get
Chinese
what
military
anybody
company
thinks
and
of
has
this.
been
It seems
listed as
intentionally
such
designed to be as
in the United
unappealing as
States
possible to the
databases.
core demographic. In this case, it's still
Because-
got some Rocksteady charm to it.
Because
all of the games
apparently
are bad,
the
or
Chinese
there's
military
some
started
stuff
paying
that
them
works.
to
It's not the
make
majority
games.
of the stuff, sadly.
There's no word on what the games are,
Still,
but
don't understand why more
you know,
brothers
I hope
decided
I hope
to bet
people
it
know
all
that that's
on
not a new
game
thing.
where you violently murder all your favorite
It's not a new
superheroes.
thing, still a
Yeah,
red flag.
clones,
I was
whatever,
gonna say the
but
U.S.
core
military
premise
did the
is
same
off
thing
putting.
20
It's also-
years ago for
and I don't just mean
America's
Suicide
Army.
Squad, but all these games have
For
this
the
weird,
Xbox.
oversaturated color palette. That, like,
And then every single Call of Duty
saturation
since.
itself isn't a problem. There's a version of every aesthetic that works, but it's not.
But they don't like to
this.
talk about
They're
that
all trying
one.
to be cartoonish,
No.
but also hyper realistic at the same time. It's wrong. It doesn't work. Clashes with itself. mouth, which is not good. And yes, there's a way to do that. That is on purpose.
Rainbow
But
Six.
it's again.
Oh wait, no, this isn't Rainbow Six.
They were
This is
all
more
bad
Call of
ideas
Duty.
from the start. Someone Someone with some kind of authority should have looked at them and canceled them years ago, but here's the thing. Anybody who wanted to do that probably had no authority. It was probably the other way around, and the people with the authority kept saying,
it usually is.
No, we're not going to cancel it. Keep working 80 hours a week on it. Thank you. It just makes everybody...
Does anyone have $100 maple syrup?
...out of touch and clueless because you have to be...
Do you think the maple syrup smells slightly different on each bill?
Whatever. Multi-million-dollar boondoggles.
I hope it does. I have not gotten a hold of paper Canadian currency, so I can't test that theory yet, but it would be nice if it did.
To hit the saturation.
You've got like a more buttery smelling syrup, or you have like maybe a fruit flavor.
That would be neat. Caught as gussied up U.S. propaganda. My surprise face. Wait, just not... Yeah, that was actually like a shocked stare.
I'm shocked. Well, not that shocked.
Yeah, I don't understand the jokes about Silk Song. I'm not even gonna let him finish this video, but...
Silk Song is basically most likely never ever going to come out, but everybody believes it is.
I can see that. What?
I said, but it's probably not. Yeah, it's essentially like the Half-Life 3. Hollow Knight was good, though.
How else can you tell the denomination of the bill in the dark? Oh my god.
It's true! Use your nose. Godzilla time?
Godzilla time.
Godzilla time.
But yes, give me just a second. I need to have...
Of course.
No, that's fine. Close that. Okay. Godzilla time! I know nothing about what this is about. United Nations Godzilla Countermeasure Center. The UNGCC.
June 14, 1989.
Oh.
It's a warm, clear Saturday in Florida when tragedy strikes.
Not Florida!
Is this an AI voice or is this just a very monotone man?
I think it's just a very monotone man.
A shelter is flooded by highly radioactive material.
Oh no.
Over the course of a year, poor management and negligence leads to thousands of deaths and the creation of a monster unlike anything our world has known.
Hazard investigation report?
Yeah, it sounds like a TTS voice.
It does.
The progenitor.
The Florida Everglades.
I was gonna say, it's the Everglades!
Before the Shelter 54 incident.
Fucking love the Everglades.
Wait, they put an underground shelter in the Everglades? That's just moronic.
Company
Putting anything underground in Florida is a very poor decision.
Their facility.
Oh.
The contamination reaches parts of the
Everglades. This is so 80s, it's delicious.
In a small mosquito population.
The real horror. Florida.
To grow to extraordinary size.
Oh no, mega mosquitoes.
I think that this is also a this is basically just a clip mash from various different things.
His research team followed the swarm to the sites of several other superfauna as they fed.
I'm talking to them.
They named the invasive species of mosquito Skeetera.
Skeetera?
No.
How bad could a Skeetera attack be? Me having all of my fluids sucked out of me in the matter of 4 seconds.
There's a horror film about that.
Oh, hello.
About giant mosquitoes attacking a campsite.
I was gonna say, these clips look like they're straight from that one Godzilla movie. That one American-made Godzilla movie.
The American-made Godzilla film did not have big mosquitoes in it, though.
Did it? I've never seen it. It just looks like that version of Godzilla.
No. 1995, was it?
Somebody come get her.
The Shelter 54 incident began.
Oh, God. Superfauna Shelter.
54 was a Class C anti-superfauna shelter.
Class C, as in there were other classes?
Like most
1998.
Shelters, it featured
1995 was the Godzilla Destroyer movie. Different movie.
Yeah.
Being a Class C shelter, it's
I mean, I would prefer it to also to be a clip mash as opposed to like flop. So
true.
Civilians were taking cover in Shelter 54
captions.
when subject 16
Meaner
landed a fatal blow on the large female Ghidorah.
I can't understand. Also, if Red recommended it, it's probably on the up and up. Oh, snap!
Is that the fluid that flooded the shelter?
The goo! The goo!
Oh my god, his penis is in the fucking building!
Anthony Harris and Stephen
He's whipping his
Kessler
cock
were
out.
the UNGCC
That moment when you're in a
operators
business
at
meeting and the
Shelter
giant
54
reptilian
at the
penis
time
just
of
comes in through the
incident.
window. Huh?
The
Stephen
the
Kessler was
hexapenis?
speaking to a group in the shelter common room. Anthony Harris was at the main entrance helping the remaining civilians
I really
enter.
like this so far.
After
For all of
Ghidorah
our
was
silliness.
crushed, her internal organs and collected blood rushed down into Shelter 54.
Oh,
The entrance
no.
was flooded with over 200,000 gallons of radioactive fluid.
Wait a minute.
Stephen ran from the main room
gallons.
to investigate the
Look at that
noise
renegade animation.
when
Look at him
he was
go! Go,
drowned.
Steven,
Look
go!
at
No, Steven!
Stephen never
Stephen
secured the
drowned.
main door.
I can't believe they did make a secondary, closed door from further back inside.
The following
I would
phone
be
call
so
was the
pissed
last
if
known
I
Are you telling me
had-
that there's only
communication
2
from
staff
Shelter
members per
54.
shelter? You're just asking for a mutiny. Hello? Hello?
Oh,
Wait. Oh, no, this is actually just abandoned by Disney. I get it. Okay, I see where this is going.
no!
So now there's just a shelter in the middle of
Intense radioactivity.
Orlando?
Shelter 54
Question
wasn't
mark?
properly explored
That's now just full of a whole bunch of
until
mutants, and they just leave it
later.
closed. It's totally fine.
It was considered a complete loss of life.
It's just full of goo. Delicious goo.
It's interesting that the super. Oh my god.
Completely flooded with organic tissue.
Oh, that's sick as fuck. Let's go.
How did it?
Oh, oh, it's wiggling. It's a baby. It's a wee bab.
It looks like tendrils are growing from the shelter door.
Plop.
Plant-like in nature. I'm getting a massive radiation reading from
Wait,
Came back to
plant-like.
goo.
Oh. Wait, is it saying that Violante came from Ghidorah?
possible.
That would be an interesting take if that's where this is going, but I'm not sure.
In the main
Ooh.
chamber, a massive botanical
Or was
growth
it the
had
plant
taken
that
over the
mutated?
room. The victims inside had not just been consumed
Oh,
by
I can see their nose.
but were a part of it, as were the
That's so
plants
cool.
from hydroponic storage.
Ooh.
So there were plants in there. Oh, that's sick.
Hybrid organism, at this time referred
That
to
looks
as
like for- that looks like they're
Subject
going for
19, was
Biollante.
hidden
Yeah.
from the public. After being extracted,
Yeah, put it in the
Subject
pod!
19 was transported
And
to
drop
it in the
UNGCC
Everglades.
lab
The
near
pod.
Yokohama, Japan.
Okay, I can tell you right now, they did not fly
It's
that thing with a
Biollante.
helicopter
It's
to Japan from
Biollante.
Florida.
Research on the organism was led by Dr. Akira Shiragami, whose
I love
superfood
her. She's my
research was
favorite giant
slowly
monster.
helping regrow the world
Oh.
after the smog attacks of the 1970s.
Yo, I want giant watermelon-sized grapes. I'll do anything to get a
Subject
watermelon-sized
19
cherry.
was
I don't care if
contained
it
in
still has a
water
pit.
tank with
That's a
artificial
lot of
sunlight.
breeding.
Dr. Shiragami estimated as many as 15 victims were being kept alive within the deep tissue of the
Oh,
mass.
and they're alive.
But are they
Extraction
conscious?
was ruled out when it was discovered the victims had been anatomically rearranged and conjoined
Probably
together.
not then. If they're rearranged.
The
Yeah.
only victim that scientists were able to make contact
wait.
with was 17-year-old Erica Johnson.
Look at that
who had
hair.
not
Look at
yet
that
been
hair.
remembered.
Yes, Rin.
Using infrared machines that
Okay, so they're
function
kind of
based on
using
eye and
Biolante's
muscle
original
movements,
story.
Dr. Shiragami was able to communicate with her.
That makes sense.
This is initial communication test with subject 19. Hello. Can you hear me? Am I speaking?
Oh, they patched her face up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good. My name is Dr. Shiragami. I'm a scientist here to help you with your
I was gonna
condition.
say, for somebody, his accent is not very heavy
Smell, feel, anything.
for a native Japanese man.
Light.
Well, if you can't get an actual Japanese individual, it's best to sort of stray away from putting on accents.
Yeah.
For sensitivity purposes. Oh no.
Able to feel the others.
I am everyone.
So they're a hive mind.
Just melded together into the plant system.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the mutation has become unstable.
Define unstable.
For the sake of the victims, this may be a blessing. But why do I feel so
It might be
Burn it
coming
down!
apart. Yeah, I think it might be coming apart or like dying in a way.
Or at least like the people that are melded are dying, so maybe it's
But now in my possession is the solution. I've spent my career strongly opposing the use of Godzilla DNA. But it may be my only option.
On
Here we
October
go.
22nd, Dr. Shiragami began transfusing the organism
this will be
with
fine, guys. We can
Godzilla
use
cells
this to like
for their
fight the
regeneration
radiation stuff. The plant will just uptake it and push it back, force it back into the ground in a much more stable form.
No.
Why is it a giant, enormous, horrifying dragon with tentacles all over the place? Yes, Cannon. New meme now featuring Faye. Oh no.
Oh.
Subject 19 had taken on the form of a rose and
Discord.
grew beyond expectations.
It's not in it.
Water manager of the Dark Carnival.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Damn Faye.
I've noticed you've begun responding less and
F.
less. Is something wrong?
Something bad beside. Please. One, please.
I'm sorry, Erica. Unfortunately, you must remain under observation a little longer.
Kill me.
Oh.
Pet it. Pet it. This thing for some reason reminds me of old SCP animations.
Dr. Shiragami reported that in the days following the incident, Erica had fully merged with the rest of Subject 19 and was unable to be contacted further.
Define merged.
Colleagues noted that
So the
this,
absorption
Dr.
process was
Shiragami
still
withdrew
happening.
himself from social contact and dismissed his assistants for the holiday break.
Okay, bye everybody. I'm gonna be here alone with a specimen.
Denied by my superiors. I know what I must do.
The recently denied scientist that had a plan that could possibly save the world, and you left me alone.
On the night of November 29th,
The slide.
Dr. Shiragami tampered with the container controls to electrocute Subject 19.
Oh.
The big rose.
Flower.
Yeah. Because remember, Biollante had two forms. Rose
An
and beast
industrial
form.
flamethrower
Is the goal to
reported
agitate it to
missing
just
during
break
an
out?
inventory check.
I think
When
he was
security
trying to make her,
confronted Dr. Shiragami
I think he was trying to
outside
end her
the
life, but I
examination
don't.
room, He revealed the weapon.
No.
He pulled it out of his hammer space.
Doesn't need to be a situation.
His secret pocket.
They're further away. They could just take him out.
They probably don't want to. He is a scientist after all.
True.
Oh.
With slump.
What do you hold you? Oh.
Oh boy.
Here she comes. Here she comes. Here she comes. Yeah!
There's now spores in your lungs.
Get mutated, nerd.
Subject 19 had begun growing exponentially and escaped underground, taking the facility with it and killing 112 in the process.
Only 112 in a massive government facility. Thank God it was you know.
There she is. There's my girl.
Citizens
She's beautiful.
Of Yokohama awoke
I love
the
her
next
so
morning
much.
to the startling sight of Subject 19's new form.
Yeah, so this is her rose form. So in her
Mouth.
original movie, mouth. So in her original movie, Marin, Biollante has two forms. She has the rose form and she has beast form. And the beast form is like the big alligator plant thing that you're more familiar with.
Expanding further into the city.
Did the caption also say "help me"?
Scientists that
Yes, she was
previously had
screaming.
worked on Subject 19 cooperated to create a plan of attack.
Wait. Are they saying Erica's eye is the primary thing? Or were they just like,
Yeah.
this is homage?
No, they're saying that's her. It is a direct reference. Like even Dr. Shiragami was a direct reference to like Biolante's origin story.
No, not the petals.
Because basically, Dr. Shiragami's daughter, who was also named Erica, was killed in an attack, and he took her DNA, plant cells, and Godzilla cells and fused them together, and that's how we got Biolante.
Hey, can I keep that
After
eye?
the flowers collapse, aerial photography
Only if you're
revealed
nice
that
to it.
not only was Subject 19 still alive, but mutating.
Mutating, you say?
Mm-hmm.
How do you check that from a range? Wait, that
By
ain't right.
looking really, really hard.
Wait, I have complaints. Wait a second. Wait,
looks
that's Shin
like
Godzilla, what the fuck?
That's part of the Shin Godzilla model.
This time, Subject 19 took on a Godzilla-like form as it became mobile.
But yeah, it's basically taking beats from her movie and doing it a little bit different.
The MBT-92 Maser Cannon, the new
Maser Cannon
in fighting super fauna threats.
Yeah.
Zap, zap, zap. They then pissed it off really, really bad.
Yeah, they sure did.
Oh.
Get wrecked.
Smack.
Schmickety schmack schmack schmack. Get slapped.
Zap. Zap. Hit her again.
No, maybe.
I wonder why they went with this overly Godzilla. Oh. Hi, American Godzilla.
Oh, it's got some tentacles. It might have been easier to, because there are basically renders and like riggable models of most of the Godzillas, more or less.
Oh, that's
I'm not
heinous.
sure. It's terrifying. I love it.
With Godzilla trapped, Subject 19 began absorbing G cells to
Get
further
absorbed.
mutate itself.
Oh, that's
The
terrifying.
G cells. Suppose that's better than N cells.
Meh.
Are you sitting here and tell me the Biolante just killed Godzilla?
Yes.
Why did that shoot out of the side of her neck? Never mind.
Blarp. Smack.
Get absorbed, get absorbed. No! Jesus.
No. Nom, 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 nom.
Wait, this isn't meat. Broccoli.
Vegetarian. Blech.
Oh my god, my favorite. Vegetarian cannibalism.
Oh god. Goo!
It's giving, Las Plagas.
I said
Or
no
aka,
tongue on the first
the
date.
Las Plagas, as the game likes to call it, meaning the plague.
The plague.
Oh, actually, no, I think it's the parasite. Or if you call it the Las Plagas parasite, it's the parasite. The parasite.
Ah, yes, the parasite. The parasite specifically for the parasite. The parasite's parasite. The parasite meant for the parasite.
The
That
parasite meant for Leon.
Ah. Yes, that parasite.
Even Resident Evil come here? Wait, what?
Mass moving in on his location.
Here I come.
Can you imagine the kind of tunnel that something like that moving would do?
It would collapse so many things.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Parasite Eve? That's a game I'd be okay with having a remake.
Mostly the first one, though.
I'll probably end up playing the original during one of the things that I want to do in the future. There she is.
There's my baby! Look at her! She's so big and she's so fucking terrifying! I love her so much! Look at her go! Fuck shit up, queen! Yeah!
Schmack.
Schmack.
Bitch!
I will fuck you up!
Grown.
You be gone.
Damn, threw him right into the Japanese countryside. Wait, Bailante's taking Groot in the suicide forest? Wait, is that what they said? They're in Okigahara?
Did they say Okigahara?
Nobody lives in the Japanese countryside. Now hold on a second.
That's not true.
It's just old people.
She was my favorite to play in the Destroy All Monsters video game.
Ooh.
I love her so much. I have an ink drawing I did of her somewhere, like her head.
Oh.
Yes!
Oh, hello.
Nom 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 nom.
Boy, I can't wait for Bailanche to show up in the cinematic universe.
I hope they let her. I really do. She's so good. I love her story. I love her design. She's fantastic.
My baby's on fire!
My baby is burning! It's okay, Baiolante, I have the water!
I'm coming, Mama's on her way home!
I'm on my way, baby girl!
Released by Subject
I got you,
19
Queen!
seemed to have a paralyzing effect on Godzilla.
Oh, okay. Nap time.
I take a nap right here.
He was unconscious for 4 days before returning to the sea.
Fuck this shit, I'm going back to the ocean.
He was inactive.
They were
after this
extremely brave
event
for being that
for 3
close.
months.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, thousands died or were seriously injured. Yokohama
And so you
had transformed
you gave
forever.
Yokohama to Baiolante, right? Yokohama Baiolante was, yeah, she's just hanging out. Look at her.
Subject 19, now officially named
wonderful.
Baiolante, has taken control over
I sent you
parts of
the ink drawing
Okigahara
of her head I
forest.
did forever ago.
Ooh.
Although generally peaceful now, Biolante's presence
Wait,
has
that's fucking
attracted
sick.
several other superfauna that sometimes become aggressive when she's
Not the
threatened.
Skeetera!
The Skeeter!
Oh my god.
The mosquitoes!
Oh my god, the Skeetera.
Oh no!
Due to this incident,
They got
the
caught
use
in the
of
helicopter
B-cells has been
blades.
made illegal in all experimental research. Additionally, most sea level shelters
I mean,
have
did they
been
really do
updated
it, or-
appropriately for automatic decontamination protocols.
Good, that should have been in there from the beginning. There should have been
What
an
can we
airlock
learn from
system
this
for the
incident?
shelter.
Simple
What can we
mistakes
learn?
can have deadly consequences. Whether you're operating a shelter during
Oh
a
my god, this
crisis
is a
or
safety
notice a
video for
colleague
working one of the
not doing
shelters.
well, always refer to the safety protocols provided by the UNGCC and speak with a supervisor.
My neck is
The
cold.
victims of Shelter
I'm
54
sorry.
live on in Baiolante.
I can put my hands on
never
it.
able to live, never able to die. Forever a dark reminder of our mistakes.
Yeah, just perpetually.
Yeah, I'm sure I guess you had to add that in at the end, didn't you? There, champ.
In her original story, it's just the doctor's daughter. It's a singular person, so they changed it to be more body horror. $56 billion!
Repeat probability 5%.
It's 5% too many!
So we can see if they put hands on Marin's neck.
I meant to warn it, not anything inappropriate. Get your minds out of the gutter.
Order.
Not now, dear. We're wrong website.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
This was a good video.
This is a really cool video. I love these, like,
Sick.
analog VHS style. Oh, that reminds me. There's the new Midwest Angelica video.
There, yes. I had another Godzilla analog thing too. If you wanted to see it, but we can watch this too.
Faye, we're so behind.
We're so behind.
We're 3
Jesus.
videos behind,
We're
Faye.
3 videos behind.
Faye,
Oh no,
I think this may be more important.
We gotta fix that.
All right. Everything else can just, kind of just go away.
Everything else can wait. This is important. No, I said Godzilla analog.
My name is Marcus Lucan.
Oh, did you send it already? What was the other one?
No, not yet. I have a tiny playlist of Godzilla analog horror videos that I found from a guy who does beautiful models and renders on the Twitters, but I can share it with you later.
We can watch
this is more
maybe
important.
next week?
Yeah,
the worst thing?
Yee! But this is more important because we are 3 videos behind.
Say Godzilla
On May
MMO.
29th, I saw something unexplainable on a local television channel.
Oh, was it the local 54?
I found out the station is based in Paradise, Missouri.
55?
So I'm here today to see if I can
56.
uncover any answers about what I saw.
Dear.
Assume the position.
Okay.
No. I was thinking of the, what was the fucking ad? That was like the, America Has Fallen.
Yeah. That's local 58.
It was local 58. I was just trying to think of what was the position?
It was called the victory position. You laid down on the ground.
Oh yeah, it was laying in the yard and taking like tablets that were provided or something.
I'm just gonna have a look around.
My favorite
It seems
pastime,
like
standing in a
pretty quiet
field.
neighborhood so far.
I love standing in fields.
not a lot going
Thinking
on
about
here.
life.
But
Having a little cry.
I want to see if I could find that lake that I saw.
Looking
on
for dead
broadcast.
things, poking them with a stick. Oh. Listen, there's nothing as haunting as a abandoned neighborhood. Like a whole neighborhood that was just never used. Maybe even never finished.
Yep.
I just got to the lake, and one thing that I noticed is that it's really, really quiet around here. I haven't seen anyone yet, but
Gamble all? What do you mean?
what the hell?
Oh dear.
Oh, there's something hovering over the
That
tree.
is not a weather. That's not a weather balloon. That is not a weather balloon.
That's a dude with a jetpack.
That's not even a dude.
Or that's like...
Get down from there! What are you doing in the sky?
It looks like almost like a head of something.
It's definitely dripping something.
I think that's whatever's propelling it in the air.
It just flickered out of existence.
It's gonna be right next to him. With a scream.
Teleports behind you.
Teleports behind you.
Yeah, I need to get closer.
Sir, you were very calm for seeing some strange thing hovering in the air.
Human beings have very awkward reactions to things when they're scared. That's what I've learned.
Mine would have been like, I gotta get closer before it leaves. Versus,
Mary, no! Oh no! Don't touch it.
Oh no! They found my encouragement points. No!
They're gonna touch it.
Oh.
Oh no! The lake is red.
Blood pool. Blood pool.
Blood pool. Do not lick it. No. Merritt.
I think it's gone into the water
But it
supply.
tastes like enoki mushrooms.
Okay, well, when you start mutating, don't tell me about it. Don't cry about it to me.
Don't know what
Again?
I just saw, but
Yes, again. What do you
All
think's gonna
right,
happen?
but next time I'm gonna come back with 6 arms
it's
instead of
awfully
4.
quiet around here, to be honest.
You know, I don't see a drawback
about
about
this
this.
place, it's
I
just-
see no issues here.
Yeah, but they're not attached to my body. They just kind of hover around. I don't actually have any arms anymore.
I still don't see a drawback.
Wait, was there somebody there?
You can rewind it so we can see if you want. I'm not sure. Oh, window. Okay, window.
Is that a person there?
It looks like a shadow
Maybe?
of a person.
Or a kid?
Maybe. It didn't
Yeah,
look.
Rin, you didn't like the 4 arms, so there's literally only just stand there. because Rin was afraid of the layering. So I can't even cross all 4 of my arms.
Driving in the
Rin.
90s.
Are you talking about the cross arms? Yes, I am.
Get called out.
All right, do I see anything hovering over the trees again or anything?
Let's see. The sky is so blue.
I need to find somewhere to stay for the night.
These trees here make me think of driving on the highway in Louisiana. With like the side, because the sides of the highways are always just lined with tall, like pine-ish or evergreens of some kind.
It looks like the outskirts of Tampa, Florida.
Deer Lodge Motel.
Okay, so I just got to the hotel.
I would not stay here. No.
I don't like the fact that it's kind of redundant with the Lodge Motel.
I noticed something odd about this sink.
Do I need to get the wiring and the forearm cross arms with impossible power? Oh, hello.
Oh, the sink is bleeding. That's great.
I'd be out. I'm out.
I would leave.
Wait, something came out of it. Something.
Yep. Like
solid.
flesh.
It could just be congealed blood.
I don't care. I don't want to know what it is. I'm not. I
Yeah, it was
simply
just
will
congealed.
not. Stop getting close to it.
I'm gonna set up the
Stop
camera while I
it.
sleep.
Oh boy,
Tomorrow,
paranormal activity time.
Continue the investigation.
I'm not. No. This man's gonna die.
Mutating into a physics violation? Think of all the textbooks that need reprinting. Correct. This is not a motel. This is somebody's bedroom.
Okay, Marin, filming on location requires permits and a lot of money.
They'd never know. As long as it's in your room. It's called Be Gay Do Crime Faye. You should know this more than anyone.
I know, but I'm telling you why they probably didn't do it. Oh, what? Jesus?
Me when I'm just vibing.
Me waking you up at 3 a.m. after you move here.
Oh, the guy's gone.
Oh, it took him. This is
Me
why
when
you
I
don't-
remove the effects of inertia from every atom in my body. I have become energy.
This is why you don't fall asleep in strange motels in weird towns with blood lakes.
Me when I become the incredible impersonation of infinite kinetic energy, all formed in the shape of a human being. I could not be stopped.
I can't believe Marin is Dr. Manhattan.
I'll show you a topology violation.
Oh dear.
But Rin, the arms have multiple layers. You can move them around and make it work. It could happen.
I'm gonna go grab some lunch.
It'd be hard. It'd take maybe a little bit of time, but it could work.
I don't remember.
I mean, the layering was already
exactly
there
what
to make it
was,
look good when it's just a PSD.
For some reason, I woke up today feeling rejuvenated.
I disagree.
I'm not scared anymore.
I disagree. I think it's possible. I can agree that it's hard, though. You can also admit to not knowing how to do it.
Until then, I'm just gonna continue my investigation.
Sign hard. Rin, just admit you can't do it.
It got pretty cloudy.
Now.
I disagree. I don't think anything is impossible in most live 2D with the proper layering.
Yeah, but business is best kept off stream, yes?
I'm just poking fun at Rin because I put him to admit he can't do it.
It was a hallucination. Motherfucker, you saw blood come out of the sink!
Heaton, welcome in. How was your stream? How was Balatro? Have you given into the card the numbers? The numbers go up? Numbers must go up.
Number go up.
And I love being bullied in Spine Bay. Just say you can't do it, Rin! Just say you can't do it!
I just want to make sure.
Ring 2 arms in the same blade or immediately. I mean, like, you can take, like, the upper part of the arm and put it behind and then bring the layers of the forearms and elbows forward. It just takes a little bit of finagling. Just say you can't do it! Admit you can't do it, Rin. Not that it's impossible.
This is just that scene from Rick and Morty. I can make anything. Play a video game play saving thing. Fuck you! Just say you can't do it!
I'm not gonna say it! Fuck you!
I can do whatever I want!
It's like, are you gonna do it? Yeah, I'm gonna fucking do it!
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking do it!
I'll bet my life savings it is impossible. Okay, you can have that. I don't have any life savings. accept that because that's impossible. I disagree. I think it's layering finagling.
It is literally that argument. Oh my goodness.
No, it's not Faye. It's Elliot Rin. How are you disagreeing? Fuck you! Just say you can't do it, Rin. I disagree that it's impossible. It's just layer finagling. Didn't you do it? I could try. I mean, it's already set up in the PSD. In the case that, like, it visually functions in the PSD, which to my brain makes it seem like it should be physically possible in Live 2D.
I think the deformations might be an issue. Though I don't know much about Live 2D
Because they leave you, but even then, it, like, there's not much motion that, like, happens compared to other things.
Oh,
show you a layer issue. Izzy, go back to sleep. I'm not here to have another argument with you.
Such three-way argument. I'm just here.
One argument a day with Izzy is enough. We had the comedy, we had the vague comedy argument. And I will not change. It's only possible in the Live 2D free version.
All I'm saying is that, first of all, this
hello.
Second of all, I'm just saying I wouldn't argue with the person who's making your food.
You're not making my food.
Oh, she left again. But she has a point.
I think she was referring to the probably the summer outfit later, or the emotes that are left. Is what I'm guessing.
Oh my! What is that?
She's
though?
defending Ren. I think she's defending Ren. Go back.
She's probably defending Ren. What the fuck was that? What is that?
It's a god fae, obviously. Praise be.
Ain't no god I've ever met. Who the fuck are you? I don't believe in you. Stop existing.
Is that part of the Midwest Angelica?
I think so. It looked like a cow.
It got up and started moving.
That is not my father. I dismantled my father.
Crab god. I almost for a second was like, oh my god, it's the crab. But no, that was Monument Mythos.
Oh yeah, the Suez crab. Do not go back to the lake.
Okay, Marin, final offer. I make you my world famous onion soup and no one ever speaks about the four-armed cross arms ever again. Only if I also get a French dip sandwich.
I'll make you soup, Izzy.
Wait, Pop, leave. You aren't allowed to be here. Oh boy.
I'm going to fight every deity that did not ask for my permission to be here.
He's walking on, like, gravel, I think?
I think so. There's the little weather balloon thing.
It's a scout.
Floating around.
It's an overlord from the Zerg. You must mutate additional overlords.
You must mutate additional
We
pylons.
require more Vespine gas.
We crave that mineral. Your minerals in your flesh. Yummy, yummy.
Yummy, yummy.
Yummy, yummy, yummy. Minerals in my tummy. Gonna consume your corpse.
What are you going to find, mystery man? We're gonna find a
mysteries, probably. That too. You say dismantle. Are they alive still? I wouldn't count my father's current existence as alive.
I wouldn't count it as dead either.
He dies when I say he does.
Are you telling me you made a deity nugget?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No. I made a screaming flesh pile.
Ah, I gotcha.
I don't make deities. Deities make themselves, or they're made by humans.
No, I was saying, like, you turned a deity into a nugget.
I mean, that I would do, and then I would eat the nugget, and I would absorb their power.
Oh my god, it's Jesus!
Oh no! Dr. Manhattan!
Actually, this is my hole in existence. It's where I belong. I'm just gonna go ahead and climb into that.
Oh, okay, yeah, you take care of that.
Saw it on the camera.
Yes, we watched the Godzilla already, Dang.
Okay, so the hover thingy only shows up on camera, the being of light.
Oh, is that why he didn't like react to it crazy big?
Yeah. Do not go in there.
Yep, that's
Really?
the Angelica.
Don't go into the flesh hole.
Even though it
No!
kind of weirdly looks vaguely like one of those mouth isopods. The parasitic isopod.
He went in it. He's gonna die in there. He's gonna get digested. He's gonna get
It's the
absorbed.
mystery flesh pit.
It looks kind of mushroomy.
It looks waxy to me.
It looks like waxy mushrooms.
Touch the wall. No, it doesn't look like mushroom to me. It looks like you ever been cave? You've ever been in a cave?
No, and I will never go into a cave. Caves are just earth mouths, and I will not be consumed by one.
Well, inside caves, there's the points where like a lot of the surface gets like wet and grooved down by like running water over it. Well, it doesn't move like that, but it usually gets kind of bubbly and smooth like that.
Oh, now it looks like earwax.
Under the lake.
I heard core. I heard board. No, Carrie.
No, please leave. Oh, I'm so unsettled.
I'm so uncomfortable. I'm so startled. Hi, sir.
I am startled. What are you doing here? Or is that a
mask?
madam?
Yeah, he's wearing a gas mask.
Is that a gas? I can't. The filters don't help me when I'm already blind.
Pixels. Oh.
Pictures.
Oh.
Next video.
Next.
Next video.
You got a bouse. Whatever you say, bouse.
Wait, there was text at the beginning. We missed it. It is assumed that Lucan recorded these local station broadcasts on the night of June 2nd while staying at a motel outside of Paradise, Missouri.
Okay, so this is just after what we saw.
Yeah.
The tapes are received from the Pentagon alongside camcorder footage also recorded by Lucan on June 2nd and June 3rd, 1999.
Okay.
The Pentagon following tapes contain the television broadcast recorded by Lucan on June 2nd. So what you watching?
You've seen every performance of this play?
Every performance?
But don't you
Channel 6, news update.
Topeka. It's hot in Topeka.
Why does that sound familiar?
Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. There was a whole 5-minute bit about it being hot in Topeka.
Oh god, I think I do remember that. Alright, chat needs their iPad.
iPad time!
iPad time for chat.
iPad time for chat.
It's hot in Topeka.
It's hot in Topeka. My toe is hot in Topeka.
Channel 6, April O'Neil.
April O'Neil? Love April.
You're watching Camel News, brought to you by Camel Cigarettes. Your greatest national news brought to you straight from the mouth of the camel.
America's healthiest cigarette. I know.
That was an actual news station from the 1950s.
I know. I think you showed me.
I have pulled it up once before. Oh God! Wait, y'all are on level 18.
Oh, yeah,
they were doing playing.
They were doing really, really well while you were gone. Why are we yelling? Should I yell too?
Because no, they haven't gotten anything, and they're already halfway through.
Oh no!
I can't believe Axio's dead.
07. Rest in peace. I have Powerade.
Diploma. Oh, I wonder if Diplomat would be one.
Maybe. Diploma was one, so Diplomat should be one. A is hidden.
Okay, it is Diplomat.
I'm at work on audio only. That's okay, Gilda. I hope work is going well for you.
Yay! We're not gonna make it. Everybody has to suddenly start getting one. Come on, chat.
Chat, please.
One more chance, chat. One more chance.
One more. It's all on you, baby.
Chat. chat. No.
Oh, G was fake. Oh, 7.
Oh, it would have been so good if that last one that registered would have been the winner.
Wait, Axio is alive. Look.
Yeah, Axio popped back into the middle.
It's okay. They tried.
All right, we're not going to restart for this one because there's only 30 seconds left. So we will wait through this until commercial is done.
Okay. Wait patiently.
We will wait patiently. We will sit here. We will. I spelled patio wrong. Potato.
Potato. I had potatoes for dinner.
Potato.
Potato and a protein. Yes.
What was the protein?
Whale.
What was the protein?
It was whale.
Oh, okay. Was it good?
It was very good. It's the same whale I've eaten before. The pot roast of the ocean. I try not to partake of it too much just because of the guilt that I feel, despite the fact that this is like one of the only sustainably hunted whale in the world. And for 2, I don't want to upset anybody.
That is okay. That was you. My brain registered as well, and I was like, "Well, what are you hiding?"
I ate a man, Marin.
That's fine.
Is
this your first time?
No, but I lured him home with promises of a date.
With promises of marriage and inheritance from my ex-husband, that I was really wealthy and ran a farm.
And he was foolish enough to believe me.
He was foolish enough, as were 7 other men.
As were 7 other men.
And then I disappeared, never to be seen again.
Never to be seen again.
That's an actual person, chat. I don't remember their name off the top of my head right now, but that is an actual person. She did do that.
It's true. You can eat any animal if you're okay with that animal eating you. That's why I eat octopus. I see, Daedalus.
I think Daedalus just admitted to wanting you to eat them.
I don't eat anybody that would be into it if I ate them. If you find it appealing, the idea of me consuming your flesh, you are automatically removed from the menu.
Meals that were horny when they're butchered taste nasty.
They do. I'd probably fall for the promise of a hug. Well, Plaxius, do I have a warm embrace for you? And definitely not a gruesome end.
Snaps back and hug. I'm waiting for something weird to pop up during these. Tonight, fair skies, a low of 72 degrees.
That's not bad. Oh.
Effective until further notice. A civil authority has issued a water boil advisory.
It's in the water.
For Clay County, MO is Missouri?
Yeah, Missouri.
Effective until further notice.
It got in the water, Marin. It got into the water supply.
Attempting to get closer to what you're seeing on your screen.
What is
we'll
that?
Have more updates for you as they come
that's
in.
Oh,
that's the thing. That's both of them.
Just joining us.
And the cow.
It's the cow and then the thing flying over the top of it.
Yeah, the balloon. At least that's what I'm calling it.
For your own safety, this broadcast has been terminated?
I think that's what they're saying. Everybody in chat, Mortis.
Mortis! All your base all belong to me.
All your base.
Now classified.
The broadcast is now classified. Oh no, red! The color of evil!
But it's such a good color.
It's the color of evil!
Yeah.
See, I'm only a little bit evil, that's why I'm purple.
Starkill controlled Home Delta Division was responsible for this hijacking of KMBC-TV Channel 6. All information about the Beta Chunk's presence in Paradise was kept to absolute secrecy by the Starkill. That was the organization that was like fully infected before, wasn't it?
Yes. Despite these efforts, Marcus Lucan still managed to successfully infiltrate Paradise.
The implications of this fact are unsettling.
I'm unsettled.
I'm so startled.
I'm so scared.
Now time for the meat and potatoes of back to the main story. Welcome to Apostles.
Apostles. Meat and potatoes. Meat and potatoes.
Following footage was found on Lucan's car in the morning of June 5th, 1993, so 3 days later. Car was found blocking the gate at the Pentagon South parking lot, and it was subsequently towed and inspected. This tape was recorded by Dr. Gamma Churchill, the former director of the top secret Home Delta Division. Gamma Churchill.
Gamma Churchill.
We now know Home Delta was strategically and covertly assimilated by Starkill on April 4th, 1999.
Remember, because it faked its own obliteration?
Yep. This footage was recorded mere weeks after the assimilation event known now as the Rebirth event.
That's why the whole town went missing.
I mean, hold on. If I remember correctly, and previously when it said like the assimilation event took place, it took place over the course of what, 3 seconds? Something like that?
Yeah, it was very fast.
It was like, I think it was, because I think if I remember correctly, it devoured everyone within its containment chamber in like 0.2 seconds. And then the entire place was just fully assimilated within 3 seconds.
Yes.
It's like that one SCP that was like, it was Alcatraz. Do you know the Alcatraz SCP where it was like, yeah, it's been slowly growing at a steady rate, and then suddenly it stopped.
Yep.
And then at approximately 6:43 a.m. on June 2nd, 2007, it devoured the entirety of the United States in 7 seconds.
Can you imagine how terrifying that would be?
That was the thing, though, is they like took the record of it in the SCP. It's like it devoured the entirety of the United States and replicated the entire thing nearly instantly. So
but that doesn't mean
people
it's still the same
exist. They just don't know they're part of that organism. Which was like the whole thing.
Yeah. Terrifying. Because that's not you anymore.
Yeah. But you don't know either. That's like being the thing. That's like if you didn't know you were the thing.
Well, that's why I'd also like, it's only slightly tangentially related, but that's why like if teleportation technology becomes a thing in my lifetime, I won't use it. Because for it to work effectively, you would essentially have to die, be broken down and reassembled and brought back into
re-uploaded.
The other
You're just another copy.
Into the other location. And that's just a copy of my person. That's not me. You don't get to copy me. Absolutely not.
It's effectively light speed cloning. Look, the me who wakes up is a different me. Okay, I mean, you know what? That makes sense.
There are some people that theorize that we are never the same person as when we wake up.
Trying to
Have
remember.
fun with that thought, everybody.
I think there's a merit in VTM that's pretty much the same thing for Zabitsi, where when they go to bed, they wake up the next morning not looking like the same person, and they have like no control over it.
Security operatives. I see.
What about portals?
Dr. Robert Spencer. What is his current condition? Last we heard, he was placed in cryogenic sleep as a result of the Starkill infection.
I'm trying to figure out what the blurred thing is that's in front of the camera.
I think it just might be a flesh mound, to be perfectly honest with you. Or a body.
I need this. Thank God.
Yes.
It's a cover-up.
Oh, it was the mask. It was the gas
mask.
It was
okay.
It's been over a week since I last received contact from Fakebringer. I fear the worst has come to pass.
Fakebringer?
They thought he was, but he wasn't, so Fakebringer.
I see.
Yet, knowing what this outcome would be, I still placed the burden of humanity's future upon him. I can't ignore this fact anymore.
Oh, is Fakebringer Lucan?
I evaded my duty to humanity by sending others marching to their deaths.
I don't think so.
Spencer, Aaron, the countless Deathbringers. They were all sacrificed by me. All in an attempt
Listen, sir, your bootleg Thatcher cosplay is all right for a convention, but I'm not convinced here right now.
I'm the only one alive who has the power to end the Starkill threat. There's no other choice. I must
I think
carry
this
out
is
my
Lucan.
duty, even in the face of certain
I have to do what I must do.
I have reason
Time to put a bomb in
believe that the
Arasaka
central
Tower. Let's go!
consciousness of AZ-001 has made
Oh
landfall,
no.
but its location
I mean, oh
is
yes,
known
but also,
only to
oh no.
the Starkill itself. Using this, the Akashic probe, I will be able to extract the knowledge and memories of the Starkill from this hypothetical central chunk.
Was that a
Once
camera
this vital
stand?
intel is retrieved, the United States can fully initiate a counterattack to wipe out the Starkill using its own memories. I've determined a range of possible locations for this chunk based on the effect of the Akashic range of the Starkill infection.
Oh.
As far as I can tell, the current core Starkill hubs are located at the Babel site and the Coliseum site.
Coliseum?
My mission begins here.
Remember when they were making them fight? They were building them into like meat robots.
Oh, yep.
This is the final stand, and I must do it alone.
Here
Good
I
luck with that,
go
champ.
again on my own. Well, speaking of death,
the only road I've ever known.
I've ever known.
I want to assess the full extent of the infection and hopefully gain
Literally going down the
insight into
road.
the possible whereabouts of the Beta chunk.
I don't like this fog.
It's likely trying to remain as
Also, the fact that this man is doing like 30 miles an hour on what is almost certainly a highway.
There's little time to
You don't like the dense blue fog that you can't see anything through?
Visibility is nothing!
Oh god, it's green. Sigh!
Sai's just standing in the flashlight.
No, it's leafy green. She would never eat her vegetables.
Oh, is Sai not a vegetable eater?
Memes aside, no, she will. If they're cooked correctly, like in a way that she likes, you know?
Good, because then I have a really, really cool mashed and baked what is it? Brussels sprout salad recipe that I really want to try. It looked so good.
Yeah. I got her to eat asparagus, so.
Oh.
What is that?
A statue or maybe a door?
A plant? It looks like a plant.
I mean, it's kind of
we're
plant-ish, but I think it looks like stone.
Yeah, we're also in night mode, so maybe that's why it's super green.
Yeah. So that's the node. But what's that? It's the person!
Oh no!
Keep posing.
What about me?
Keep posing.
What about my thoughts? I can't have my thoughts. Those are mine.
Your story will play out? And then I think I heard the word desperate.
I think so.
Mental stability, 89%. Neurological pathway connection, nominal. Metabolic functions operating at biological capacity. All biological systems are reading nominal.
Okay.
He got hooked up to something. Oh. So is this his driving route?
I think.
Okay, so now he's in Louisiana.
No, this is 5/30, 1999. He went north of Missouri.
North. Louisiana's the other direction. I know maps.
Miles across Missouri, Arkansas, and Kansas. Yet
Arkansas?
The Starkill spore signal response has been effectively at noise floor for all locations. Wherever it is, it's doing a very good job at hiding.
Is that billboard just hovering in space?
No, it's got a hole on it, see?
Oh, it's Paradise.
Yeah, Paradise. Paradise, Missouri!
But I think this might be my first clue.
And then somebody wrote hell on it.
I would not doubt
I'm
that.
heading now to Paradise, Missouri.
So this
I've
is
checked
how
this
he
area
got...
before, but nothing came up then.
No, this is a different person because this is before Lucan.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
This is actually no. This is Lucan.
Yeah, this is Lucan. We're watching his footage.
But this
What
is
we
just
saw-
before the stuff happened.
Yeah, before he went down to the godforsaken flesh hole.
There's something by that log.
Is it a frog?
No.
Frog on a log? Aww.
What the fuck was that?
No.
Oh, it's the meter. It's the meter that's making the noise.
Yeah.
I'm using a spore reader to check for star kill presence.
Yeah.
So
There we
far,
go.
nothing's coming up.
It's a very goofy looking contraption.
Mm-hmm.
There's gotta be a way that it's spreading. If not through the air.
I hate to tell you, there, champ. If not through the air, where's the other option? Where is there not air?
Think really hard with your science brain.
There's two options. There's two options that aren't air.
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da! Womder.
Wonder.
That's it. It's under the lake. It's spreading through the water. Clever.
The water!
But I drink that!
But I swim in there!
They gerrymandered the states? Say what?
I knew it.
Oh
Network
god,
under
that looks
paradise.
inappropriate.
I know what I have to do. For the sake of us all.
Do not go down there!
We're gonna ignore the fact that instantly, like, probably not even an inch under the soil, it was just flesh.
I mean, it probably didn't expect anyone to start digging.
Fascinating.
Get out of there!
Temple classification.
What do you mean temple classification?
Cooling vent, as opposed
Remember
to
they
larger
used
structures used for
like
airborne
different
spore
religious
dissemination.
buildings as like size measurement.
Completely hidden.
So smaller ones were called churches, and the bigger ones were called temples.
I like flesh churches in most lore.
I'm
Ugh.
so upset. He's not. He's gonna get digested. The gurgling is. This is very effective.
What the fuck is that? It's the Midwest Angelica, don't you know?
Oh, flashing lights, everyone! Flashing lights. No. Is this where?
He's saying this is the central chunk.
Yeah, I think it's like the core or whatever. Oh. This is the worst rave I've ever been in.
Gannon!
Gannon! Gannon!
Gannon!
Gannon!
Gannon!
How you doing? I can't believe you've done this.
I can't believe you've done this.
Oh?
Your sacrifice will not go in vain.
Sacrifice.
I'll see to it that your package is delivered safely.
Thanks, God.
Thing?
Who are you?
You know my name.
Jesus. What?
What does it even mean?
Eternal but cyclical.
Huh?
But your story ends here, Churchill. Beautiful narrative perfection.
Is it all of their souls?
On humanity.
Wait. Wasn't there something to fight? There was something else before, right? That fought? The Midwest Angelica and like lost?
Yeah.
Something warrior or something?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, whoa.
I cast Z
That
cups.
man is-
Too bad there's no toggle for that cannon. Yeah.
That man is dead.
Easter. Easter. Easter.
Easter.
Easter.
Easter.
Easter.
End of tape.
Brought to you by Channel 6. As shown in the footage of Dr. Churchill succumbed to the Starkill infection as his mind was flooded with the Akashic eternal consciousness.
Yeah, it's the Akashic Records. It's the soul room, basically.
The following tape was found at the Arlington National Cemetery outside of the Pentagon. What?
So the spiritual forces.
Marcus Lucan on June 3rd, 1999. We have more? Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is going to jump to...
Pentagon. Who are you?
Okay, so this is where the other video stopped.
Yeah.
It's for humanity.
And that's Churchill.
Yep.
Take the camera. I don't understand.
Get out of the flesh hole, you fool!
Sorry.
And then his head exploded.
I think he's just slowly being absorbed.
Absorbed.
Or infected.
The Pentagon is in Arlington? I don't think the Pentagon's in Arlington. The cemetery is.
Well, he got out.
But it did say before that Lucan's car was left at the Pentagon.
They probably took him in and never let him out again.
Aw, he made it out. Damn it.
I'm going to the Pentagon. I don't know who that man was, or what any of that was, but I'm sure there's answers. I'm driving straight there.
What's the polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas?
Stopping for sleeping.
I think...
Polar bear?
I don't think it's Arlington, Texas.
A gut feeling, maybe.
How many Arlingtons are there?
A lot. Shockingly, a lot.
Huh. I only thought there was the one.
I want to say there's one near D.C. Arlington, Virginia? Arlington, Texas is where King of the Hill takes place. It's a suburb of Dallas. What does that sound?
He's sick. He's coughing.
Oh, it's
got
coughing?
him.
It sounded like picking up a coffee mug and putting it down. Weird.
Yeah, no. That was him coughing. That's why they didn't let. That's why his car was found outside of the Pentagon. Because he was infected, so they had to quarantine him.
Or he
It's in
only
his
made it to the
lungs.
entrance and then just got out and left because he like turned at that point.
Maybe. It's in his lungs.
Man, this mushroom cave is so cool. I'm really glad that there's not any visible spores inside here. Me, the
That's
invisible
why
spore in his lung.
And that's why I don't go to caves, Marin.
Caves are cool. They are just rocks.
Okay,
And of course,
I'm going.
horrors lost to time.
That's as far as he got before he.
Did he grow wings?
Yep. He grew something and flew away. Oh.
Don't go into
I'm
Nutty
going.
Putty Cave. Worst mistake of my life. Me being stuck upside down.
God, no.
Lucan's buddy has not been found.
Gee, I wonder why.
Proper quarantine methods were enacted in regards to the Lucan materials. Were they?
Were they?
Information contained within the Akashic probe, including the truth behind Home Delta, has led the United States government to forming a new division of Home. Hi, Keyshawn! The gospel of truth has been revealed. Property of Home Gamma Majestic.
Gamma
Home
Majestic.
Gamma Majestic.
They gave
Gemini
the triangle.
Home Entertainment.
They gave the triangle sparkles.
Uh-oh.
One nation under God. That has terrifying implications.
Whose God is it? Which God?
one? Which God?
Marble hornets makes Slenderman scary. Oh, God.
I honestly felt like Marble Hornets overstayed its welcome.
I don't remember what it is at all.
Marble Hornets was basically like the ARG analog horror series that made the Slender Man like blow up and made him popular. And it's a very long series that consists of a bunch of found footage and then some not so found footage. And it was a whole big thing in like the 2010s.
One God under the nation. I mean, I think that's what we're building to right now.
And it's just very long. It's a little too long in my opinion and gets slightly too convoluted, but I acknowledge it for what it is. Dad, wake up. Santa brought us an evil sentient organism from outer space.
No! A shelter 52? 42?
54.
54. I was gonna say the thing that we were gonna watch earlier was the Nexpo video on Oakburn, the Misery of 1991, but it's a little long for I think my current energy levels. Here, let me see if I can find something really quick. Oh, I was like, what is this band on YouTube? It's National Day of Mourning for President Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
He
lived a long time.
He made it to 100.
Mm-hmm.
I watched shorts until it turned me alt-right. Wait, what?
What?
It's been a minute featuring Mini Minute Man.
I see.
Okay, so I'm guessing what he means is he basically just like watched shorts either on like YouTube or TikTok until the whole feed itself became just like alt-right jargon.
Interesting.
But I do know Mini Minute Man. I think Mini Minute Man usually does like psychology and history videos and stuff, I think.
You want to watch a 2-minute Godzilla found footage horror film?
Yeah, gimme.
I'll send it to you.
Titanic unhinged version. Oh no.
There you go.
I think I've actually seen the Titanic unhinged version, or at least like a part of it before. We'll watch that after this.
Yes.
Oh hey!
Yeah.
Look at that dude.
Yeah.
Hey there. The following footage was shot by Henry R. Hill of New York in 1954. It was released to the public in 2024 by court order. The audio was from an interview conducted with Mr. Hill in 1960. Is there a Chernobyl unhinged? I don't know if I want to know about that.
You captured this on film, but you no longer have the film?
Yes, I did.
Where's the film?
Government confiscated.
Oh, okay.
Government took it.
You took my stuff.
Tell us about what you saw.
Yes, very exactly.
As I was driving, it was just
look at that
black mountain
lighthouse
out in the ocean. I pulled into Elephant Head there.
I think lighthouses are really cool.
They are.
Just started shooting.
I need to find that video I have that's just called a new goal unlocked, and it's just a lady in a ferry driving past what essentially looks like a lighthouse on an island in the middle of a bay.
Look at it though. Look.
Oh.
And I don't know what kept me standing there.
Not my car!
Boom.
No.
You hear that from the radiation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also frizzes up too.
Like the air was turned to poison.
Yeah?
Yeah.
My health problem started up not long.
Mountain looks like a stump, so therefore giants. Yeah, I've seen a lot of his stuff like that. But he also he's done like college lectures and stuff on like understanding how misinformation propagates.
That thing still haunts my dreams. Haunts my lungs.
Why is the air spicy?
They're waiting for me.
Oh, it's so good.
Died 3 months after the interview? Well, I mean, he lasted like almost 7 years after meeting Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you touch Godzilla with a bare hand? What do you think happens if you do that?
You burn. But did you like it?
Yeah. There was a lighthouse in it.
There was a lighthouse in it.
All right. Now, y'all want to see the most unhinged fucking thing.
Yes. Yes, I do.
It's the Titanic unhinged. Hey, there it is. Oh my god!
Oh no!
Anyway, no, it's totally fine. We made it through the first one. Rip Jerry.
Through the window. Through the other window.
I think there's more coming.
I think there's more coming. Good.
I'm coming.
Oh no.
The Looney Tune ass slip.
Yeah. They're going so fucking fast.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. This ship's going like 120 miles.
For a ruckus like this?
Oi!
You old man.
What is?
What was that run?
Oh, what the fuck?
What?
They're already back in New York?
How did we get here?
Oh, beautiful, fantastic.
Lovely. Oh, no, never mind.
Never mind. This is Cloverfield.
Oh. The piano.
Oh, yeah, they actually legitimately came all the way back to New York.
Well.
I'm starting to notice the pattern of these unhinged versions.
Stop. But she did not stop.
The anchor falling into a trolley. Oh. Is that the Brooklyn Bridge?
I think so.
Did they drift stop the Titanic on the Brooklyn Bridge? No, my nail.
No,
Splits in half.
Bleh.
We made it to New York. And ahead of schedule. Uh-oh.
Standing on the window.
No.
And ahead of schedule. I want you to know every time I post the weekly schedule and you see schedule time, I want you to read it as schedule time.
Yes, ma'am. Will do.
Hold on, now I gotta know. Oh god, there's more.
There's so many more. Oh.
Flying Scotsman smashes SUV.
Oh no.
Why you don't put coins on the train? Okay, I'm just saying that. Okay. We'll do these two. Hi, Thomas.
Hi, Thomas.
Thunk.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Downhill we're going. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Oh. Oh. No.
Oh, no.
Oh, he's fine. He nailed it.
He's okay. Oh, no.
Look in the eyes.
It's okay, it's fine. Not the windmill.
I'm sure that windmill will be totally fine.
It somehow blew up a house.
Hi.
Oh, it's the grouchy train engine.
It's the grouchy one that gets like bricked up in the show.
Yeah. They walled him in.
Another fuel canister.
Mm-hmm.
The looks.
Yeah. He just falls down.
Oh. Oh god, he got off the set.
Get him.
Yeah.
Whee.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh?
Well, surely he can't cause any more damage.
Isn't that stupid?
What? Ding. No.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh no. Get him! All this for a toy train?
Sir, you were gassing it.
Mm-hmm. Whee!
And San Francisco Hill.
Let's go.
We're going into the bay. Wait. Ah, yes, perfect.
Wait,
that's Mr. Bean!
He's got a shovel. Oh. Never mind. Whee! Oh no, the kitty.
Oh my god, it's James May.
What? A helicopter?
Wait, what? That helicopter is scaled way too big. Tink. Doop.
That's not... Okay.
He'd get blown off. Hi, nuclear. Are we still on AI shit? No, this is unhinged.
This is unhinged 3D animation.
Is he running from it? What's going on?
I have no idea.
Sir, I don't think you understand how precarious helicopters are.
It's just a toy train. Ooh. Whee! Well.
Uh-oh.
Music.
Okay, we're fine.
It's good. Thomas.
Let me remind you, we are on a very tight schedule.
Oh no!
Thomas!
Choo choo.
Oh,
God.
Okay.
Incredible.
All right, now why don't we put coins on?
Okay, go. Okay, today we're going to try placing a coin on the train tracks.
Okay, this is good. I think this is a mixed reality thing.
Have a good look at Abe Lincoln right
here. Okay.
Okay. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Okay, here it comes.
Yeah.
That's not a real train.
Fantastic. Oh, God! See, it's Western Pacific. It's not Eastern Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see what his other stuff was besides the unhinged videos.
Mm-hmm. This is still pretty unhinged.
Oh. This is pretty unhinged.
Exceptionally.
Is it weird that it almost looks like he's using like Google Maps for the area rendering?
Does almost. But that would actually be pretty smart if he did.
Whee! Oh,
there goes a plane.
This is the video of if I ever have kids, this is the video that I'm going to show them about why not to put coins on trains.
Excellent.
Because I live down the road from a train track. Okay. Grr, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Hollywood hire this man. Listen, his unhinged videos. I already had it open on the other tab. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like these three, he's done 3 in a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we can look at like the instant like pop in popularity for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see. No, wait, that's not what I thought it was. I thought that was the SRR1 train.
No.
Oh, nor.
Or nor.
But. I think that's going to be it.
Okie dokie.
I think that is going to be all because I have other things that are going on later tonight and I want to go eat a full meal. Are you going to have anything coming out this week?
I actually am going to be making a very rare stream appearance over on Grimm's on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the month, I will be releasing a interview with the lovely artist Smog Teeth.
You bullied them, right? Called them adorable, told them how talented they are.
Yes, with love, exactly. Because Smog is wonderful, and I want more people to know about their work.
I completely agree. Smog actually made my PNG for our VTM campaign.
It's very cool. No, I'm not giving you any water, Ganon. You know what? You can dehydrate. But yeah, that's what I'll be doing this month.
Trying to figure out who to raid. You need water? We're all going to die? It's phase water. You can't have it.
You can't have it. I'm an octopus and I need to stay hydrated. Yes.
But... Monka.
Monka. Big think.
We could just raid the Screaming Owning.
We could. I don't see why not.
I think she's doing multiplayer Dark Souls remastered.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
We're gonna raid day.
Let's go.
Raid message, though. Raid message. Quit screaming! No, Hectic, no!
Oh dear, help!
I think we'll just make it the unhinged horror raid.
There you go.
The unhinged horror raid with Dumpest.
Excellent.
It's perfect.
You need maximum speed.
I will be actually over on Emots later today with him and Alex doing more commercial chaos. So if you want to hear me judge old commercials or get very confused if he decides to show us European commercials, I highly recommend swinging by.
Please show the European commercials. That would be so fucking funny.
Me just being like, what the fuck are the Scots doing now? But no, we'll see. I asked him last week if there was a theme. At that time, he didn't have one, but we will see if when we show up, if he has a theme.
It'll be
Thank you so much
hilarious
for the
to
raid,
watch.
Hectic. I'm sorry we're raiding out. I hope you had a good co-working stream, though. But until next time, guys, I will be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. I'm pretty sure. I feel like I'm forgetting something because I was going to move. Oh, Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, you're doing Mibble Ribble instead.
Yeah, I think we're doing Mibble Ribble instead. And then Saturday, we'll be doing Star Wars Outlaws because I got a code for free. Yippee. Until then, though, guys, bye. Go give Day some love.